Not buying any Grand Champion.
You're just buying one that the tail wiggles, right?
It's only mine.
Okay, folks, if we could call the meeting to order,
I
please.
gotta keep reminding myself.
I'm gonna still
Okay.
spend that kind of money. I'm gonna buy something I eat, you know?
Would you mind
Well, I'm
sitting
gonna
down so you can stand up?
That's what you do with those, don't you?
Okay, thank
do.
you, and welcome to the August 10th, 2011 meeting of the Grand Traverse County Resource Management and Administration Committee. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if the clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Gilman,
Here.
Inman,
Here.
Henschel,
Here.
Lemkool,
Here.
Thomas,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Here.
Fleece,
Present.
Wheelock,
Here.
Richardson.
Here. Okay, and then the first order of business is the approval of minutes from July 13th.
Move for approval as presented.
I have a second.
Support.
Any discussion? Been moved by Inman, supported by Max Bauer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, this brings us to our first opportunity for public comment, and there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. And clerk could read the rules of public comment, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
Any member of the public wishing to make a comment at this time? Please come up and go ahead.
Well, my name is James Palmer, 11737 Mills Drive. I am the district manager for waste management, and I'm hoping you guys will appoint me to the Solid Waste Management Board tonight. I've worked in this industry for over 30 years. I've sat on several boards, dealt with several county plans, establishing recycling in several counties, establishing funding for recycling, and I'm hoping my experience will help Grand Traverse Board accomplish their goals. And I just thought I'd introduce myself real quick. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment at this time. Next, we have the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda as mailed.
Okay, hold on just a
Oh,
minute.
unless he
Hold
wants
on.
to add. It's gonna cost you.
Dennis?
Mr. Chairman, we received a letter earlier this week from Teamsters, the Teamsters General Unit, indicating that MSUE employees are requesting an opportunity to join the union. They are now non-union. It amounts to 4 employees, and I want to have a discussion with you under my section of that issue, if it's all right with the board tonight.
Would that just be part of the administrator's update?
Well, I'm going to actually ask you to consider some action.
Okay.
So I'd like to add that under my section, if that's okay, discussion of accretion of MSU employees into the Teamsters General Unit.
Okay. Sonny? You?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend the provided agenda to include MSU Extension employees under the administrator's section, and other than that, as it was presented.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, brings us to special orders of business, and first we have the annual report by the district court. And let's see, we have Judge Stepka and Carol Stocking here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome back, Mike.
Hi again.
Good evening. It's nice to be back. I'm Mike Stepka. I'm fortunate enough to be one of the three district judges for Grand Traverse, Leelanau, and Antrim County. Carol Stocking, who you all know, our court administrator, is with me tonight, and we're here to present the 2010 86th District Court annual report that you've all been provided with. I believe you're all pretty familiar with the district court, but I can provide a brief summary of the report, and then we can take any questions that you may have. The court has a pretty heavy criminal docket. In 2010, we processed 5,993 criminal cases and over 7,000 civil cases, which consisted of general civil cases, landlord-tenant and small claims cases, and over 13,000 civil infraction cases. We're proud to have now 4 active specialty courts. We have Judge Haley's Sobriety Court, Judge Phillips' Domestic Violence Court. We have a mental health court that Judge Haley currently presides over, and Judge Haley also has recently begun a veterans court, which is rapidly growing. Some highlights from 2010 in terms of some cost savings are that we eliminated the use of probation officers on weekends to set bonds that historically we had been doing. And now the 3 magistrates in the 3 counties, Antrim, Grand Traverse, and Leelanau County, rotate that responsibility each weekend. It's resulted in a cost savings. In 2008, we paid $16,500, I believe, in overtime to probation agents who set bonds on weekends. 2010, we paid $4,000 in overtime. And thus far in 2011, only $400 in overtime. So that is working very well. We've begun using credit cards to make payments online for fines and costs. And this is really pretty amazing. We've noticed that people who owe fines and costs are paying much quicker because they can do it online. We do see a lot of young people in the district court, and young people tend to be more users of online services, so we're seeing payments being made quicker, and I'm predicting that we'll probably be able to increase collections by using this online mechanism. And as you know, too, we've begun an document imaging project in the Civil Division this year, and another highlight is the Veterans Court that I mentioned. You probably all know that we handle civil matters under $25,000, landlord-tenant cases, misdemeanors, which are criminal cases that carry no more than 1 year in jail, and small claims cases. We have 35 full-time employees and 4 part-time employees. We handle bond setting in the felony cases. We handle the preliminary examinations and arraignments in the felony cases. And we handle the misdemeanor cases from their original inception by way of the charging document all the way through sentencing or trial. Let's see. Post-judgment filings in civil cases have gone up over the years. And I think that's driven quite a bit by the economy. Post-judgment, examples of post-judgment filings would be motions for garnishments, motions for writs of execution, and all of these generate filing fees. So because of the increase in those post-judgment filings, we are able to increase some revenue in that fashion. And collections, we continue to work very hard on collections. We have 2 part-time collection individuals who work very diligently to track down old defendants from older cases, going back some into the early 2000s. And Judge Phillips and I, once a month, hold show cause hearings to collect a lot of these delinquent accounts. And it's been pretty impressive for me. I've noticed that, well, first of all, when we send people a notice to appear for show cause hearing, we tell them in that notice that they do not have to appear in court if they pay their costs in full. And it's amazing how effective that notice is. We collect a fair amount of money, and the people don't even have to show up in court. Those that do show up, when they know they have the power of contempt that they're facing, they pretty much tend to come up with either a lump sum in a payment plan or sometimes pay off the debt completely. So collection action is working, in my opinion, pretty effectively. Everything can be improved, and we're working on tweaking it in certain areas, but I think we're doing really well in that area as well. So that's sort of an overview of the report. Carol, would you have anything to add?
No, I told you I wasn't going to talk.
Carol's not feeling it.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the room that believes that?
Pardon me?
Is there anyone in the room that believes that?
That Carol wouldn't talk.
I still didn't hear that sound right. No, we took a bet today, and we figured she'd have something to say.
Judge, was it last year, and Carol, was it last year that we rebid the attorney contract?
We're in the second year of, or the
We're in the
first year
first
of
year.
it.
First
So
year.
we did it last fall.
Yeah, so, I mean, that resulted in a significant savings, didn't it? And I don't know if the board's aware
Very
of that.
significant
Yeah.
savings.
Do you remember
We were
about how
paying
much?
$365 per case, and the bid came in at $274. So we are,
No, we paid $350 a case last year.
Was it 350 in the Grand Traverse?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's $294 this year.
I want to say it's still $40,000 or $50,000
It is.
in potential savings this year as a
It
result of that
definitely is.
rebid. So that was a really great thing.
294.
I think it was $350.
Could be.
We'll let you guys argue that.
It's a substantial difference.
It is. That's
See, I went to
the end
It's
of
a
it.
substantial
number. I figured
savings,
that
and
was
that's all
better.
we care.
Christine?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say how educational the drug court was this morning. I'm watching the district court literally transform people's lives, and I was so impressed with how people come into the program, and basically they come into the program kicking and screaming because they don't want to be in jail, and 2 years later their lives are completely changed. It was inspirational.
Thank you for saying that, Christine, because I do want to say that was not a performance. So for any
No,
of
I
you
know it wasn't.
who didn't come this morning, who want to stop in any Wednesday morning at 8:30 or any Wednesday afternoon at 3:30, Judge Haley has sobriety court every Wednesday, and that's open to the public as well. And you can come in and just sit in and observe. It's like that every week. Now, he does not have graduations every
Right.
week, but when he does, it's amazing.
What I saw this morning, you can't fake something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, people literally they're so grateful. They have a life now, and it's great.
Well, and I think the other piece that we tend to forget about sometimes is by the use of the alternative courts, or whatever you want to call them, we've also helped to control our jail population.
Absolutely.
And those of us that have been around a while remember a few years ago when we were bulging at the seams. We were housing 30 people in Charlevoix County. We had people in Leelanau County, and just simply had no space for them. And we were paying thousands and thousands of dollars to house our prisoners. And, I can't express to both the district court judges and the circuit court judges the appreciation that I have for them to help us to control that jail population. We're not completely convinced that just incarcerating people makes them change their life. So, we've really went above and beyond to try to find alternatives for
Right.
them.
And studies have shown across the country that these specialty courts do work. And, it used to be that the typical second offense drunk driver would get 90 to maybe 180 days in jail. It carries a 1-year maximum, but For instance, if someone received 180 days in jail at, I believe it costs about $20 a day to house an inmate, 20 times 180 for just one person, and Judge Haley has about, I think, 100 people in his sobriety court. So it does save a significant amount of money, but equally as important as Christine mentioned, it does transform people's lives. It saves families, it saves the lives of the person involved, and a requirement to be in the program is that you work. So these people are contributing to our economy. They may not have been working before, now they're employed and, paying taxes and contributing to society as well. So it's just a complete win-win situation for all of us. But and the domestic violence court, I think we don't have similar studies for that court, but I think it's having a similar effect. If you commit to the domestic violence court, you don't go to jail, and if you're successful, your case gets dismissed, and therefore you don't have the jail costs in that situation. And just like the sobriety court, it has great potential to restore families. It can involve treatment, both emotional and substance abuse treatment for the participants. So that too has a very positive effect on the individuals and on our community. And we get safer individuals back into our community, and the recidivism rate is, I think, greatly reduced. So they're great courts.
Yeah, I noticed it when I see some of the activity, though. A lot of the activities are down in your charts. What do you attribute that to? Because we're more aggressive at what we're doing? Are we losing some population so that it's going down? Although our census says we're up on the population, but I see a certain number of people that are leaving the area, and I'm just wondering what you think you might be attributing some of those reductions, or is it just our courts?
We've talked about that a lot. I think it could be a multitude of factors. It could be that we are losing some of the population because of economic reasons.
Well, also the message could get out that, hey, don't get caught in Grand Traverse County.
It's not unique to Grand Traverse County, though. It's statewide.
Is it?
The numbers are,
Yeah.
the criminal numbers are down statewide. Civil numbers are up. People
I
are
knew I'd
suing
get you
people.
talking.
People are suing people, but the criminal activity is down, and it's not unique to our district. It is a statewide trend. Don't know the answer.
Good.
I remember this district court covers Grand Traverse, Leelanau,
Right.
and Antrim counties.
But the charts show a
Yeah.
decrease in all of them.
Yep, yeah.
They can't afford the gas to drive to the crime scene.
But I also enjoyed this morning, and I was impressed that it was not just alcohol, but it also prescriptions that you're dealing with, or that people are dealing with in abusing. And so that's quite an opportunity for them to kind of get their life back in place, too.
Judge Haley also has drug abusers, not just prescription drug, but marijuana and other drugs in his sobriety court as well. So it really covers the full spectrum now.
Yeah.
Where it started just with alcohol, as he mentioned.
Thank you.
Well, we've also worked more at involving the family, not just the offender.
Right.
And I think that's a huge thing for us, too.
Okay. Any other questions by anyone? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for coming in.
And now we have a presentation by the Area Agency on Aging.
I have a couple of handouts. And then I believe you all have a copy of our annual report. It was a little blue pamphlet that could come in your packet. I want to thank you for having me here tonight. In the past, you've had Greg Piaskowski,
And he retired in October 1. As you all knew, I've been here several times with him, but he took the lead. He's enjoying retirement. I'm trying to meet with him once a month anyway to make sure he's behaving himself. So, I'd like to go over the pamphlet, and I'd also like to thank the...
Bob, could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Bob Schluter, the Executive Director of the Area Agency on Aging. And we are a 10-county organization. We focus on people primarily 60 and above with the Older Americans Act and the Older Michiganians Act. But we also have a program that focuses on the disabled community from 18 and above that are in the Medicaid waiver program. Medicaid waiver being a change how the Medicaid was used to be utilized for institutional care only, and back in the early 90s, they, as long as a person could be kept out of an institution, they were, we could allow funds to be spent on their care to keep them at home and in a community setting. One of the reasons I'm here tonight also, I had the opportunity to speak with Commissioner McBauer's group, the Finance Committee of the Commission on Aging, kind of to plead our case for the match money that we're required to get from all of our counties. In aggregate, we have just under $400,000 that we have to match for all of the grants we get from the federal and state Commission on or the aging organizations. We can find monies to match most of it, but we have every year passed on about $40,000. This year it's $43,000 that we've split via a formula to the counties based on population and age, and we use, unfortunately, the census that's available to us, which is limited in some case, but it is very valuable. The match is, it is required. We have to come up with it one way or another, whether a county pays it or not. It isn't something that we can not pay. So it also gives an opportunity for a county to have a seat on our board of directors. We have two boards, a board of advisors, which really is our advocacy committee. It's made up of approximately 25 people, but actively 15 to 20. And they're very much the workers and keep up on what's going on in the state and in the country about aging issues and disability issues. The match money allows, our bylaws allows for every county commission to appoint either a commissioner or an appointee to our board of directors, and then we have 5 at large. So we have 15 on our board of directors that are really they're the managers of the organization. And so this, I hate to use the term it buys a seat, it doesn't, but it does allow them to have a voting seat on our board of directors. What I'd like to do is go through the little blue folder first and then answer any questions based on the 2 handouts I had as you get a chance to cruise them. We've had a really active year, as most organizations have, with a lot of cuts, facing a lot of difficult situations. We were very active in Lansing, fighting for the aging funds for our region and also the state. We understood that we were the only department, the Office of Services of the Aging, that did not receive a cut in the new budget, state budget. We had several legislators call our office and tell us to have our people stop calling them. They got the message and they were very supportive. I think they were supportive because they saw the numbers, they saw the growth of the aging population, and they saw that in most cases, what we were doing was saving significant monies, but more importantly, we're helping people and helping them get into a setting where they were the most happy. Primarily keeping them out of institutional care when it wasn't necessary or there were other options for them. The average cost for a nursing home stay right now is about $6,500 a month, and our Medicaid waiver program that you'll see on here keeps people in their own homes, in a community setting, for much, much, much less, many times in the hundreds of dollars to $1,000 or $2,000. In saying that, I need to also emphasize that nursing homes are our friends. They are part of our team, and we work very closely with them, and we have some outstanding nursing homes in our region. We just did a video of an individual that the nursing home helped us transition out, and I'll talk briefly about that in a minute. And it was because of that nursing home we helped this person get back out into the community, and they are happy, and his family's happy, and the political parties are happy because less money is being spent too. There is also a lot of emphasis on caregivers. There are probably everybody in this room, or most everybody, has had an opportunity to care for a loved one, whether it was a young person or a mother or a grandparent. A lot of emphasis is going on helping caregivers do their 24/7 job, providing respite care, somebody to come in and assist them, providing technical information on how to deal with all levels of dementia. It is more than a full-time job to be a caregiver for somebody, and I was one for 8.5 years for my mother, and it's very demanding. It's also very rewarding, but part of the reason they're going through this training is it also is a cost savings, because that's one of the mechanisms that keeps people at home, is if the caregiver is there and trained and doing a good job. You're going to hear a lot in coming years, months and years, about home and community-based care. That's the emphasis, is to keep people at home in the community as long as possible before they go to the next stepping stone, which would be institutional care, nursing home care, or assisted living situations. Again, it's nothing wrong with those institutions, but we are trying to help people move along a continuum rather than take gigantic leaps over care possibilities that would be better for them and the families, and also more cost efficient. So home and community-based care is going to be a term you're going to hear a lot about. We also have been successful this year in getting several elder abuse legislation or laws passed, and they're bipartisan. They didn't get dealt with last year because of some of the things going on in Lansing, but this year they've already jumped on board with them, and it's important because we're seeing a lot of, and not just physical, we have financial abuse, all kinds of abuse, but affecting the seniors, and so that's something that's getting a lot of attention too, and it's been a long time coming, and we have some very strong advocates out there. I mentioned briefly this individual that was transitioned out of a nursing home. We have several pilot programs running right now where we're working with nursing homes, identifying individuals who are there because they don't have family resources. They don't have anybody to help them at home. What we're doing is working with the nursing homes and whoever is interested in assisting this person to get them transitioned out. It's called nursing facility transitions. So we'll also see a lot of that. I think there's a recognition that there's a time and place for all kinds of levels of care. The Affordable Care Act, which many of you are dealing with in one way or another, there's a lot of aging information in that act. We're still learning. There's a lot of things that are going to be changing on it, but one thing that's coming out of it is a term called integrated care. And we have worked closely with all of our agencies and organizations in the area of mental health and social services and DHS, and we're going to continue that. It's going to get even more so because they're looking at changing some of the ways these actual providers are being paid, and how the insurance companies and the managed care organizations you're going to be hearing a lot about. So that's a wave moving towards us. State of Michigan hopes to get their application in by next April. We don't know everything yet, but we're trying to position ourselves so that we don't throw the baby out with the wash, which is very possible. We need the people calling these shots at Washington and Lansing to recognize that not only do we help people, but we also help small industry, because we have over 100 private for-profit companies that we work with on a daily basis that provide high levels of care that large corporations could not do for the same cost. And if they're not careful, those networks could be broken up, and we would be paying a lot more because of the kind of provider that would be selected to come in. So we have a very close watch on that. We have long-standing relationships, strong relationships with these providers, and we want it to stay that way. In wrapping up here, we do have the Commission on Aging appointed Jim Pasco to our board. He sits on our Finance Committee and our Executive Committee. And then there's also Randy Clausen sits on both of our boards, Board of Advisors, and she's a Traverse City resident too. And then our Board of Advisors, we have Jane Vitkus. Randy sits on that, as I just mentioned, and Kathy Doker. So those people represent Grand Traverse County on both of our boards. And I'd be happy to answer any of these questions. One of the reasons I guess I did go to the Commission on Aging was to discuss the match. I hope I did a good job with that. It was some very good questions. I know the counties, in all 10 counties we cover, that you're the 7th one I've spoke to. You're all having hard times, I understand that. And we're hoping to work with all the organizations so that they understand what we're trying to do with this match. And I also hope that when you look at we spent almost $1,902,000 in Grand Traverse in services, and we hope that the $7,500 request for match feels like a good percentage. Again, I understand that money is money and it's tight, and when you give money to an area agency on aging, it may not go somewhere else, so I understand that clearly. Happy to answer any questions. I hope I didn't take too much time.
Could you explain what this sheet is?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. The short sheet, we have several programs. Some of our programs the money go directly out to contractors in the county, and then some of the monies go directly through the Commission on Aging or Council on Aging. And the dollars going through the commissions and Council on Aging is all over the place in any given year, depending on what our care managers and our staff recognize as services needed and how much is spent. Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging does a fabulous job. They have a lot of programs going. We haven't in recent years needed to contract with them a lot. We do work with them closely. We have a great relationship with their staff, and we are there for anything they need us for, and we try to keep them informed. This may change next year or not.
So the issue, besides the report, which we get annually, the issue that will be before you during budget is the Commission on Aging Finance Committee and the Commission on Aging have said
The full board, yes.
The full board has said they're not going to pay this next year, and they're asking the county to pay it. The Commission on Aging has paid this for as long as I've been here. I don't know how much before that, but they're recommending that you consider paying it as opposed to them, and so that's part of the reason the issue is before you.
And this is approximately $7,500, is that right?
I guess I have
Larry?
a question, and that is that the millage that passed was an increase.
No, it was not an increase.
It was level?
Yes.
Wasn't there two issues and both passed?
One was for the senior center operations. The other was for Commission on Aging.
And the one for Commission on Aging was a flat appropriation?
Yes.
Okay. So if it was a flat...
It was, yes.
So if it was a flat appropriation in terms of mills, what was the rationale behind not, because it does fall within the structure and organization of senior services, what was the rationale behind the board not wanting to pay for that?
There were several reasons. And believe me, we talked about this a great deal. First of all, Bob, when Bob came to our committee, we did ask if Area Agency on Aging serves people under age 60, and the answer is yes. By law, we are not permitted to serve people 60, under age 60. We must serve people 60 and older only. Another reason for the Commission on Aging not funding is, and we did ask Bob this in the Finance Committee, how are other counties handling their matching funds? Well, Bob told us in the committee meeting that the other 9 counties funded out of their general fund, not Commission on Aging. Now, we did find out later that Kalkaska does split it 50/50.
And we're getting that updated. Carolyn is getting that. It's kind of across the board, they are changing.
And then, and Georgia did some research through, Georgia Durga, for anyone who's watching, is the director of Commission on Aging. Georgia did some research throughout the state, asking other Commission on Aging agencies if they fund, and the answer was no, it comes out of the general fund. And the board's feeling was that that the county board should show support for Area Agency on Aging if they want to support it, and it should come out of the general fund. There was also some feeling on the board that there is a duplication of services, and some feeling also that some of the services provided by Area Agency on Aging are not in keeping with our mission. So, for those reasons. Now, I will tell you, if the county board says, votes and says, Commission on Aging, you will spend the $7,500, obviously the Commission on Aging will spend the $7,500, but those were the reasons.
A couple questions. You had mentioned there's $1 million and some dollars spent in Grand Traverse County.
Almost $2 million.
I'm sorry?
Almost $2 million. It's
Almost
on that
$2
one
million.
sheet that I...
Okay. Spent in Grand Traverse County based on this $7,500 that we put into matching funds?
Well, it's not based on it, but that's the amount of service dollar that we put in Grand Traverse County. And then we have just a little under $400,000 based on our grants that we get from the federal government and the state aging office. And we are required to match federal administrative dollar and state program dollar. And that total match comes to, like I said, just under $400,000. We have some opportunity to take in-kind from counties that report and all kinds of stuff that we shuffle around, and we get down to this pool that we can't do anything about, and it's generally around this $40,000 range. It's actually more than that, but it's $43,000, and we split that up based on a formula throughout the 10 counties. And this fiscal 2010, you have about 24% of our entire funding, and I believe you also have about that 24% of our total population for the 10 counties. So it kind of, that doesn't always work out that way.
No, it doesn't.
But, yes.
Kind of like mental health.
Well, Commissioner Maxwell, it was my impression that part of the rationale behind the Board of Commissioners allowing someone to serve as a county commissioner representative from the Commission on Aging on their board was the fact that you were making that appropriation. And so I guess the question is, if the Commission on Aging is not going to be making that appropriation, and I think then the Board of Commissioners should rethink that policy and possibly have somebody from the Board of Commissioners that if we're going to be actually doing the membership fee.
And the Commission on Aging Board is well aware that
Okay.
very well may occur.
Okay.
You should, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Rob?
I really wasn't done.
Well, no, that's okay. But before I call on you, if I can just clarify one
Sure.
point. On the millage, the renewal millage, it was flat, but it did restore the Headley reduction.
That's what the question was. Did it go up?
Okay.
based
So
on
it went
Headley?
from like .489 or something to .5.
Okay.
So, I mean, it
I
went
thought
up
there was a
like
Headley
a very
doing that.
small amount.
All right,
That's
okay.
all.
I guess the question in my mind is, the almost $2 million in services, if your agency doesn't provide them, are those federal and state funds going to funnel through the other agencies and still, the services still get rendered? Or is this almost $2 million that our county agency is going to provide that much extra services? Because or will they be there anyways?
No, they won't be there. They are funneled strictly through a state office, the Office of Services to the Aging, and they are dedicated through the Older Americans Act and also the Older Michiganians Act to go to an area agency on aging, which actually all of the area agencies on aging were formed back in the early 70s. And back then, historically, most of the counties ran different aging programs, but as they got more and more involved, it was decided that maybe they should become more regionally managed, and that's why the area agencies on aging were formed. So we have 16 in the state of Michigan, and there's 640 in the country.
And how many serve Grand Traverse County?
Area agencies on aging, just one. We serve 10 counties, all in northwest Michigan.
They're all set up regionally across the state.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and there's one in Detroit, and there's one in the UP.
So will this create a void for our seniors if we didn't have that funding or those services available? And how would we fill that void, or would we just let it
Well,
go?
potentially, it would be a void. There may be a way that Bob finds to run the program for a year or
Okay.
two, but the match ends up being in jeopardy if he doesn't have enough local money, or if the local money's not available, the grants tend to be jeopardized, and there's no other mechanism to get the money in there. So I think it's something that we need to seriously consider. We've always been partners with the AMCAP, and I think we need to maintain that. It's really, I think we'll have more discussion on it during the budget process. But it is a difficult decision because we do have, many needs and not enough money to cover them.
Are you done, Ron?
Yes, thank you.
Herb, and then Jason.
Yeah, just correct me, Dennis, if I'm not wrong. Seems to me a number of years ago that we've had this discussion, and the decision was by the commission at that time was that budget had to go through the Commission on Aging, that it was not going to go through our budget.
Now, that was the direction the county board gave.
That's the county
probably
board's
6, 7
direction,
years
was
ago.
to go to the Commission on Aging, that they were to pay the dues out of that, and they were the ones to make the decision. And
Yeah.
if they make the decision not to, it's a done deal.
That is what the discussion we
That's
had
the
7 or 8
discussion.
years ago. But, I think they're asking you to kind of reconsider that.
Why?
Jason?
You mentioned duplication of services, and if there's a duplication of services when they perform some service for the seniors, does that then take a load off of the Commission on Aging?
I'm not,
I guess what I'm saying is if it's a duplication, but I mean.
I'm not, please understand.
I understand that. I'm just kind of asking a question. I'm trying to frame it. And the other thing is, looking forward, are these predicting what's coming ahead? Mm-hmm. This is the question I've had to ask other folks. Are these grants, are these matching funds going to be here in 5 and 10 years?
The request for the county for 7,500?
I'm talking about the federal matching funds.
Are you asking if our agency will be funded in coming years? Are we losing our grant money?
I think he's asking if you can predict how long this funding will last, federal grants, and I think the answer to that is there's no way to tell. I don't know if my retirement's going to be here in 2 years. But you just don't know. And so you can argue, Commissioner, that it won't.
Right.
But you can also argument that it still is. So we don't know.
I think the strong argument is that we're an aging country, and people are starting to pay attention to the fact that the Commission on Agings are becoming unbelievably important for their communities because they're more localized. They need help from other organizations because of all the stuff happening at the state and federal level. We see, with all of the negatives, we see an awful lot of opportunities with new programs, with ways to save money, and the whole health care budget is being scrutinized, and how do we save money? And our concern is how do we maintain the standard of care with an aging nation, with people who are healthier longer, that we need to find all kinds of services for them.
Also, as far as the effect, as Medicare becomes changed, because it'll be changed, it'll be adjusted, somebody's going to have to do something at some point. Is that something where your services can help offset the impact of that?
Actually, that's a very good question, because we're right now at the beginning of working with a population called dual eligibles, and those are individuals who are eligible for Medicare and for Medicaid. They are extremely expensive, and they're working on systems to try and streamline that. So, to answer your question, yes, they're looking at how does, we primarily work with a Medicaid population, not a Medicare population. Medicaid, we work with an older person who doesn't have the resources and also doesn't have, in many cases, the personal resources for assistance. So most of the vast majority of the programs that we administer are for poor elderly people who need this service, whether it's through a Commission on Aging or whether it's through the Area Agency on Aging. And we tend to be more involved in the healthcare side of it. We have nurses and social workers that go out into the field, and that's where our biggest assistance is, I think, to the Commission on Agings in the 10 counties where they have questions in those areas. We refer a lot to the Commission on Agings because we don't do those very valuable services like plow and transportation and those kind of things. We don't do that. We've been able to fund them in the past, kind of hodgepodge with special grants. That's what the Commission on Agings do wonderfully, is to be in touch with that local senior. That's one thing we miss. I mean, a lot of seniors don't care who provides the service. They just want to provide it. But there's an awful lot of them that get to know the provider, the service person who's...
Commissioner Inman?
Well, you started something I was going to kick off, and that was that, the population in Grand Traverse County is getting older, and the senior issues are a top priority for the citizens of this county by virtue of passing the Grand Traverse Pavilions bonding issue, by virtue of the millage for the Commission on Aging, by virtue of the senior center millage that went through. There hasn't been a senior center, senior service issue that's been presented to the public that I'm aware of since I've been an elected official for 19 years that has been turned down. And I think the public supports these services and expects their governments to help assist in terms of those funding mechanisms. And one of the rationales that the big fight, I don't know, it was 3 to 5 years ago, was the Commission on Aging and your particular organization wasn't getting along for some reason, and I think that Greg worked hard and they worked hard to come to an agreement, and ended up, I believe, having a good working relationship over the last several years. And that's why we felt it was important to have a member of the Commission on Aging on your board for the coordination of services, input, relationship back and forth to make sure that, there's no misunderstandings and those kinds of things about the coordinated efforts of senior services in Grand Traverse County, no matter what source they were coming from. And, if you might have the same program, but you're tight, but you're hitting a different a different type of segment that they're not hitting, then I don't call that duplication of services. So I think we got a good model here. We've built a good relationship over the last couple of years. I agree with her that we should have a Commission on Aging member on there, and I think that based on the Headley rollback, that the Commission on Aging did get a benefit in terms of additional dollars out of that. I see no reason why that the Commission on Aging shouldn't be paying those dues payments. So, I support Herb on that.
Chris?
Well, I want to be absolutely clear that the Commission on Aging does have a very good relationship with the Area Agency on Aging. The Commission on Aging has never said that Area Agency on Aging should not be funded, not ever. What they have said is they believe that the funding should come from the County Board's general fund. And again, the primary reason is that we are by law restricted to age 60 and over, and people under age 60 are served by this agency. So I wanted to stress that. And the Commission on Aging Board is absolutely clear that if this board votes to tell them to pay the money, they will pay the money. But they have never, ever said that the money should not be paid, and I want to be absolutely clear about that.
Jason?
Just perhaps even a statement that in understanding that money is fungible, even a statement that says the money is to be used for those 60 or older, as a part of the matching program to meet your, the concerns of the board, perhaps.
Yeah, so the part of that 2 million that you spend for people under 60, make sure this 7,500 is.
Well, I mean, we had this.
That's easy enough done.
We had this issue come up when we were talking about the senior center millage last year. Does the senior center only serve people 60 and over? And of course, there are a few people under the age of 60 who use the senior center for various things. And I think we ran it by Bob Cooney, and he basically came back and said, it's just not a big deal. I mean, for the very small percentage of spillover, or whatever you want to call it. Sonny, then Rob.
I guess, the comment that I would have is this partnership is too valuable to lose for $7,500. It just simply is. And the $7,500 is a budget issue we can talk about over the next couple months, whether we should pay or whether the Commission on Aging can pay. I think the important piece is this partnership is too beneficial to our community for us to be sitting around and arguing about $7,500. When we talk about duplication of services, I'm pretty sure that the same people that are receiving respite care from the area agency are not receiving respite care from the Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging. Not to say that we aren't both providing some of that care, but we're not providing it to the same people. But we all are in a situation where we probably, neither one of our organizations are able to meet all of the needs of every person that's eligible in our community. So we just want to make sure that as many people that are eligible for the service in our community are receiving that service. And that's the partnership that we have to maintain.
I was just wondering if you knew roughly what percentage of your clients are under age 60?
Well, the only program that serves clients under the age 60 is the My Choice Medicaid waiver program, and the ballpark is less than, it runs around 12% of that population is between the age of, they can be as young as 18. The average age is in the 40s on up, and there are people that have come down with MS and those kinds of situations.
But Bob, you're saying 12% of that one
Just that
program,
one
not 12%
program.
of
No,
all your
we're also
programs.
required by law to serve 60 and above in all other programs.
Of the
Medicaid
monies
waivers.
that you invest in Grand Traverse County, what percentage of that pie is people under 60? We're talking less than 1%?
I would have to get back with you on that. I don't,
Okay.
I would have to, it's very small.
Yeah, I was going to
figure's
say,
very small.
the county general fund could pay 1% of the match, and the Commission on Aging could pay 99, and then we'd be square.
Yeah. One thing that we do, many of the people that receive not cash assistance from us are the caregivers, and a lot of those caregivers are younger than 60, taking care of their parent. And so they receive services because of the information that they get from us in assistance. So it's a slippery slope, but we are we are mandated not to work with on most of our programs. 60 is the Older Americans Act and the Older Michiganians Act, bottom line. And I would like to emphasize, I think we have a fabulous relationship with the Commission on Aging in Grand Traverse County, as I hope we do with all 9 other counties. And they are valuable. We are all on the same team. Bottom line, it's the same team.
Dennis, if I can clarify, we are talking about next year's appropriation.
Yes.
That's
Is that
correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Commission on Aging paid
And you're
it
on a
this year.
calendar year also, or are you on it?
October 1 is our...
You're on, okay.
But it's next year, it will be next year's budget.
Kurt?
So I just want to say that Bob has also been part of the Transportation Alliance that has not been successful, and I hope that someplace down the road that we are going to be able to bring that back, because I think transportation is a critical need for people, particularly seniors, to be able to get around, to be able to make sure they get to their appointments and be able to get to doctors and get to the grocery store to be able to get products. So I would hope that we can get that Transportation Alliance back, and I know that you've been very a strong advocate for that along with United Way, so.
It's still bubbling underneath. We're not letting it go because it is too far.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank
I
you
wanted to
for-
say thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
Any other comments? Bob, thank you very much, and obviously we'll be taking up this issue as we move forward here.
Would you like me to stay for your discussion on that, or?
It'll be during the
Well, no,
budget,
it won't be
Bob.
tonight.
Okay.
But when we take up the budget in the next few weeks, we'll obviously be part of that
Bob, if you
discussion.
call my office, we can let you know when that'll be discussed.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Good night.
Okay, and that brings us to the consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Housing Liaison Report. Number 2, Conservation District Staff Report. Number 3, Road Commission Monthly Report. Number 4, Workers' Compensation. B, approve. Number 1, Solid Waste Planning Committee appointment.
Okay, is there any member of the public who would like any item on the consent calendar removed for further discussion? Is there any member of the board who would like to remove any item on the consent calendar? Herb?
Yeah, at the Road Commission.
Okay, so item A3 will be taken up, I guess, after the administrator's update.
Move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of A3, Road Commission Monthly Report.
Support.
Support.
I have a motion by Inman and support by Henschel. Any further discussion?
I would note that Jim was at the Resource Recovery Council the other night and introduced himself also. He's Laurel Durkin, which you've noted in your program, is no longer with the company here in Traverse City, and therefore Jim has been asked to fill in the positions that she was filling on behalf of Waste Management with Resource Recovery,
Okay.
and in turn, the Solid Waste Planning
Right.
Committee.
And that is the
That is
That
the
is the item
recommendation.
D1, the appointment to the Solid Waste Planning Committee. Okay, I guess by roll call.
Commissioner Edman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Limcool?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Gilman?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Okay, starting with department action items, the Grand Traverse County Climate Action Plan and Energy Action Plan. I guess this is sort of two separate items, but the same folks. If you can introduce, the two of you can introduce yourselves first.
Good evening. My name is John Syke. I'm the Director of the Grand Traverse County Planning and Development Department. And
Mike Powers with Seeds, Energy and Environmental Analysis.
what I'd like to do is kind of present you some background on the item that you have in front of you, which is the Grand Traverse County Climate Action Plan. I'll cover some of the background information, and then I'd like Mike, who was, Seeds was the contractor for developing the plan, and we'll kind of briefly cover some of the high points of the plan itself. There is another plan that's being considered also this evening is the Energy Action Plan, which will come after this, and that was basically another plan that was done through a grant through the Council of Governments. And I guess if I could say the difference between these two is that the Climate Action Plan is more of a comprehensive, overarching plan that deals with a lot of different aspects of county operations, including its facilities, fleet vehicles, employee behaviors in terms of energy consumption and so forth, where the Energy Action Plan is focused on specific facilities. To give you some of the background on why this is being presented to you this evening, you need to go back about 4 years ago when the city joined, or the county joined the city in terms of issuing an RFP to develop a process to address climate action, and through that RFP process, SEEDS was selected. They're a local nonprofit organization, was awarded that contract, and that contract had specific milestones or steps to be accomplished. And in 2008, that was one of the first steps that was done was the baseline assessment of both county and city operations. And it was at that time in 2008 when the county board established a goal for a 25% reduction of greenhouse gases based on the 2005 assessment by 2012. In 2009, when the county applied for the Energy Efficiency and Community Block Grant through the State Energy Office, we included the next steps in part of that proposal that was presented by SEEDS, with the idea that that grant would be allowed the next step to be completed, which was the development of the Climate Action Plan. And it was through that process that where the county staff, including myself and Facilities Management Director and the Resource Recovery Director and a few others, worked with SEEDS to develop the plan. The plan was part of that grant that we received. There was lighting improvements, boiler replacements, and so forth that were done, but that grant covered 100% of the cost of the development of this plan. In that effort started last year in 2010. This year, earlier this year, if you recall, I believe it was in February, where the county board established an energy savings account, and that was really the idea that to make further improvements, the county would utilize the savings that it gets from these improvements and roll those into future measures to make energy efficiencies. The plan was completed actually earlier this spring, and it went to the Resource Recovery Council. They passed a motion in support of the plan. And the reason it went to the Resource Recovery Council is there are aspects of recycling and waste reduction in this particular plan. It was also presented to the County Planning Commission, and the reason for that consideration was that the County Planning Commission, in accordance with the Planning Enabling Act, is involved in capital improvement planning, and as well as the policy that the County Planning Commission and the County Board have together in terms of involving the Planning Commission to review various facility improvements and so forth. The action by the Planning Commission was a twofold action. In terms of the first motion that they made was to not support the plan as it was written, and to limit it to more of just the energy conservation actions. There was a follow-up motion by the Planning Commission to take certain pieces of the plan and present those in terms of recommendations, and those are included in your packet. That's where pages 19 through part of page 21 of the plan, as well as Table 3 and Table 7, which intended really, I think what the Planning Commission was trying to say is they really wanted to focus strictly on the energy cost savings actions. So that's the Resource Recovery Council and the Planning Commission's recommendations. And I guess at this point, I would like to have Mike Powers kind of maybe highlight some of the points.
John, before you do, would you repeat again, what was Resource Recovery's recommendation?
It was a motion to support the plan.
Okay.
What plan are you talking about?
This is the
The Climate Action Plan.
This Climate Action Plan dated February of 2011?
Yes.
And that was prepared by who?
This was prepared by SEEDS.
SEEDS.
This is response to it's going back to the original proposal that the county awarded, contracted with SEEDS back in 2007, but the full one wasn't completed.
And this was completed by?
The Council of Governments working with SEEDS as well, but that was through the Council of Governments grant.
Do you know when that was?
Matt McCauley is going to talk about that when this is done.
What date was this published?
It started the year.
I don't find a date in the package.
It started actually the year before.
Well, that, no,
2009 year.
that was just recently completed, the plan itself.
This thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, we looked at that in terms of the county's green team. I believe we looked at it last month.
Okay.
Okay. And John, when you said the climate action plan was created by Seeds, that was in collaboration with the green team?
Yes.
Which is mostly county staff, although not strictly county staff. And it also says collaborative effort between Grand Traverse County elected officials. Are you talking about this board? Because of this board's previous votes to support this project?
Right, I mean, yeah, I mean, the involvement of this, like I said, goes back to 2007. And I should clarify that there was actually 2 plans that Seeds developed. As part of the proposal, there was a climate action plan for the county, which is what you're considering, and then there was one done for the city as well. That was originally, as if you recall, this was a joint RFP that was done.
Right.
So that under that contract, there was actually two plans. The city has not yet considered their plan yet.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, John, and thanks goes to many of the Grand Traverse County staff, including, and staff beyond the county, including Tim Ahrens of Traverse City Light and Power, Janice Lane from Facilities Management, Dean Bott and his staff, Barry Gillis and John Rogers from the Road Commission, Julie Davis from the Public Works Department, providing much of the data that was utilized for this report. And this really was a collaborative effort between the county staff and Seeds to accumulate all of this data. This is a comprehensive assessment. We arrived at this report really through a strategic and quantified planning process. And we really appreciate the support of the Planning Commission to implement and encourage implementation of all the actions, and really just want to say that we're really encouraged by that and look forward to working with the county to implementing these actions and to continue to comprehensively assess its energy use and to make improvements in reducing its costs of energy. The county has actually made significant strides in its ability to gather and analyze this data, and as well as in making reductions at many of its facilities and within its fleets. It's actually made improvements in accessing new technology, grant funds to provide for that technology, which have saved the county both the dollars and also reduced energy costs and thus impacts in the environment. If the two facilities that were added during the time between when we did the first baseline assessment, which would be the Hall of Justice and the septic plant, if those two were not added, the county would have been really well on its way to reaching that 25% reduction goal by 2012. So they were at 14% when we did the 2009 assessment. But with those facilities, especially the Hall of Justice has really worked to include energy efficient technology, and it is a fairly energy efficient building. Without that, with those buildings included, there is a 9% increase in emissions from the county operations. Again, really to focus on that, the county has really made vast improvements to be able to just have a 9% increase while adding two significant sized buildings. There's a lot of details of this report. I think one of the most important things that was really a synergy that developed through the project with the Council of Governments, which was the Michigan Public Service Commission grant, and this project was we were looking for a mechanism to sustain energy efficiency investments over the long term and maximize energy savings. And the energy savings account was something that was encouraged through the Michigan Public Service Commission grant, and then it was expanded and was included as really a main component of how the county is going to reach its goals. And that's that energy savings account where the county would take 100% of the energy savings from grant funds investing in energy efficiency and reinvest those. And so as you see in this table, what's intended is not to say to not do all of these things as quickly as possible. It's saying that even while doing everything as quickly as possible, you're still going to it's going to take time to realize the actual energy savings. And so that's what this 5-year plan is meant to show, is that some of these things are going to be, even though they're going to be done this year, like computer energy efficiency settings, which are noted in 2012, you're already doing a lot of those things. But our intent is that by further encouraging those energy efficient practices, you're going to capture additional savings after that, and then those savings could be reinvested. And these are projected savings based on the analysis that's been done to show by how many computers you have and by and all the staff that you have. By continually maximizing the potential of those practices, you would continue to realize greater and greater savings. So just want to applaud the county for its diligent efforts to, again, comprehensively assess all of its energy use. It's not easy to really get all of this data into a format, and whether this is a climate action plan or not, really the metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent is an effective metric for comparing energy use across fuels and across sectors. So that's why this plan, whether climate science is supported by the board or not, I think is this plan and the method for again comprehensively assessing energy use this planning process is an effective process, and the metrics that are used are good metrics for use.
Rob first.
Thank you, Mike. I had the pleasure of having a quick chat with Mike before our meeting, and he's very good at what he does, very articulate. I have some considerations in the plan. For example, the best computer practices, and I'll just use this one as an example, and I've got a few other concerns. Using computers and leaving them to go into standby mode or sleep mode when they're away from them. My concern is that we don't jump into things like that without first consulting, for example, our IT department. This computer here that I use during our meetings, if I shut this, it goes into sleep mode. I can't just turn it back on and go. I've got to log back into the network every time. And there's some applications where an employee might be working on something, walk away for a minute and come back and have to restart the application because it requires a consistent network connection or internet connection. So just to use that as an example, I think as we implement these things, we need to take due diligence before we jump into anything. That said, I like the Planning Commission's recommendation as it gets it done. Nobody can disagree with saving our taxpayers' money. So I move that we approve the climate plan as suggested by the Planning Commission to include pages 19 of the plan through the first sentence of page 21, to Table 3, and the original Table 7 from the proposed plan. And with, I'm on
Is there a type
page 38, yeah, from the Planning Commission, page 38 of your packet.
Page 38 of the
Yes.
packet.
Yes. With a statement that staff is to take all due diligence when implementing this plan
I'm
to...
a little radical here. I'm going to rule that out of order. I honestly think that, the plan is presented to us for approval. And we asked for the plan. We contracted for the plan.
An
Now we
objection,
have the
Mr.
plan
Chairman.
back. Wait a minute. I've got the floor here. My preference would be we get a motion on the plan itself, and then we can start amending it from there. But I think the first thing we need to do is say, this is what's presented. Do we either vote it up or down? You want to vote it down?
Point of
vote
order,
it
the
down.
commissioner has a right to make a motion and to have it seconded, and we can have that discussion whether or not you'd like to pursue the entire plan or not, but he does have the right to make the motion.
Well, short of a parliamentarian.
I
Well,
probably would agree with that, but
the board rules allow for us to appeal to the board as a whole as to whether you're applying the rules correctly.
I'd second Commissioner Henschel's motion.
discussion?
Yeah, let's have a discussion.
I'm totally confused.
All right, we have a motion to,
No, I'm not confused about the motion.
all right,
I'm confused about what we have on the table for consideration.
we have on the table for consideration.
All right, we have this document that's prepared by Seeds, all right, that our staff worked with.
Right.
Whether it's titled correctly or not is, I guess, another question. And then we have another document here.
Just the other energy document is a separate issue that's
Yeah,
going to
we're
be
just
discussed by
talking
the
about the
call.
climate action
All right,
plan.
Set this
There's
aside.
two
Separate agenda items.
So I guess the
Okay.
question I have is, why is there a climate action plan and then a separate energy efficiency plan when we're really dealing with, for the most part, energy-efficient initiatives.
Mike has a great answer for that.
And that's why I'm confused of why we have this, and then this in the packet.
All right, go ahead, Mike. Why don't you give us your answer?
Sure. The Energy Action Plan, it was funded through the Michigan Public Service Commission. It's energy efficiency for local governments. It was a 10-county energy efficiency project that the Council of Governments led, and it really focuses on facilities. It looks at natural gas and electricity within buildings. The Climate Action Plan is really the third step in the process that the county initiated back in 2008 when we first did a baseline assessment. The Climate Action Plan looks at more than just buildings, electricity, and natural gas.
So I guess to kind of comment further, if this energy plan, which the COG will talk about, that was their project that utilized county buildings and energy efficiencies. Ideally, that could have been, I think, included into our Climate Action Plan as a component of the Climate Action Plan. The Climate Action Plan is much bigger. So it's one aspect, but it's something the COG needs to get adopted in terms of the project that they worked on energy efficiency.
I think it comes down to, we got two different grants for two different plans.
That's it.
We spent the money.
Yeah.
We have two plans.
Yeah. Right.
Whether we accept them or not,
So these two
doesn't matter.
plans stand.
Well, let's go back to climate.
Okay.
Climate was the plan prepared by Seeds and our green team.
All right.
The Plan Commission said, we don't like this. We like the 4 pages that are added into your packet, and that's the motion by Commissioner Henschel, I believe.
Not exactly.
It's not?
I'm sorry, what's your
What I
question?
was saying was,
changes.
the Plan Commission said, this plan is not what we want to adopt, or what we want to recommend to the county board. We want to recommend the 4 pages that are in the proposal, 3 or 4 pages with the table. Okay? That's what they recommended.
Yeah.
The Resource Recovery Council recommended the plan be adopted as written. So that's what, your two boards have 2 different recommendations for you. Okay? And Commissioner Henschel is recommending that we go with the Plan Commission recommendation.
With the exception of Table 7, which would be the original Table 7.
I missed
not-
that part, thank you. Okay.
And the other thing to remember, Larry, in all this is that both of these boards are advisory only. In other words, we don't need, the plan does not need their approval for us to take action on it.
All right. Okay. I guess I have 2 other questions, if you mind. Is the table of improvements that are cited in the packet in the Energy Action Plan by the Council of Governments for Grand Traverse County? Is this incorporated in this plan?
Some of the aspects are in both plans,
Some or all?
but it is not a copy.
Some or all?
Some.
Is the total list in this plan?
No.
No.
Different plan.
If I could say that the Climate Action Plan is a much larger plan covering all operations of the county,
Talking
where the
about
Energy Action
vehicle
Plan is just a
improvements.
subset, a very narrow focused area strictly on a few different facilities.
3 buildings.
Yeah.
That's what the COG plan talked about and
All right,
worked on.
So what is the objection to narrowing down the Climate Action Plan to these number of pages?
What it is, Commissioner Inman, is there's a lot of extra wording in the plan
Okay.
to talk about why we're doing things. And I don't believe this board agrees on the reasons for doing them, though we do agree with the actions of saving our taxpayers money. So in the interest of just having us all unified, in my mind, let's just focus on the actions. And we don't need to make statements about what we believe about climate science. I believe that debate is not settled yet. There's plenty of debate on both sides of that. Let's just focus on saving taxpayer money, and move forward.
And on the other hand, in the process, you're eliminating great chunks of the supporting documentation for, the rationale for the plan as a whole, no matter what you call it, whether you call it a Climate Action Plan or a Go Shoot Cows in the Field plan, it's still,
Yeah.
the point is that it's a whole rationale of how to get things done. It's not just, a little piece, a little piece.
I guess my final question, if you allow that, is by narrowing it down just by a list of projects and not having some language to support the rationale behind it and the plan and the measurements behind it and the goals behind it, those kinds of things, would that prohibit the county from continuing our ability to obtain grants because we're lacking in information and other issues that they would look for in providing future grant opportunities for energy-efficient projects?
I guess I'm going to answer that, and I'm going to say that having the more extensive plan with the support documentation has the potential to enhance our ability to get additional grants, but not having this plan will not prevent us from getting additional grants. So it could be an enhancement. Certainly, the table is really important. That's our actions. But I think when you're sending in grant applications to EPA and to others, the support documentation that goes along saying this is what we believe and this is what our plan says can enhance our ability to get grants, but we will not be prohibited from getting grants without it.
Okay.
Is that fair, Mike? Do you agree with that?
I guess my biggest question is what's it going to cost us to be able to put this plan in place? I see one of the things in here, the education and get staff involved. There's about 5 different items in there that wants us to do as a county commission to make the employees to get more involved with it. Who's paying for that? And what budget are we taking that out of?
It's your energy savings account. That's what Mike was talking about. We know there's no general fund appropriation for any of these items. Now, in some of your improvements, in terms of facility improvements, it's always been the priority of the county to include various, measures to make those improvements. But in some of these other programs, there are no funds available. So that's why we rely on grants, but also with the idea of the energy savings account, from those savings that you have from these previous energy improvements can go back into those types of activities. That's why it takes time to kind of get it up and running.
Now, in all likelihood, there is a mechanism for it.
Right.
In all likelihood, some of the employee training will probably be incorporated with some of our annual employee training that we already do. So some of that stuff, we can do some education that way as well. So it's going to be a mix, Herb, but primarily it's going to be from this fund that you all agreed to set up that comes from the savings generated by all the things we've done, changing lights and doing all that stuff.
But for the whole plan, to implement this plan, other than the training, is there any cost to the county and the taxpayers?
I think our intent would be to focus in on using the monies available from the savings that's generated to make the improvements. And remember, it's like Dick always says, it's a plan. So I would think we're not going to be focusing a lot of general fund dollars into accomplishing this. What we might end up doing is stretching out the timeline if we're not able to meet it and do it over a longer period of time. I wouldn't anticipate general fund dollars being used.
Okay.
And I should, if I could just also comment that this is, again, a larger plan, and these activities really do, these different measures really have to be whittled down, like Commissioner Henschel was saying. If you get into looking at computers and going into sleep modes and stuff like that, there's going to be a little bit more study here by our IT department and so forth to figure out how that's going to work. So, but this is that long-range guide to get us at least in the right direction.
Well, how much staff time is going to be taken into implementing this?
It's hard to say. The Green Team meets how often?
We met on a monthly basis while this plan was being developed. We haven't met since, but...
Yeah. So what I would say, the important thing I would say, Herb, is, and while I support the plan, my main devotion to this is in the energy savings that we're accomplishing.
Sure.
That's really what we're really about here. And so I would answer the question this way. As much time as it takes our staff to evaluate projects that can bring in long-term energy savings, it's worth every penny, every dime that we spend with our staff doing it. So, you know, we're going to pick and choose the things that are the low-hanging fruit first. We're going to pick the things that give us the biggest bang for the buck, and that's what we'll concentrate our staff effort on.
Yeah, but I really think it's really important, though, that we're now asking the staff to do more with less. We're going to be looking at maybe fewer staff. We don't know where that's going to go in the future.
I do.
And when you start to look at
You're going to surprise us.
trying to implement this stuff, and you're trying to throw this on top of the employees, on top of everything else that you're going to ask them to do, does it rank high in that priority, or does it rank low in this priority, so that we're not overburden the employees in what we're trying to do? I mean, I kind of somewhat understand what we're trying to do, and I know as the county commission that we've been very proactive in making sure that we're energy conservation, but I think when we're at the time where we're looking at budgets and we're looking at how much staff we have and what the priorities of them doing for our community, that we have to decide where this fits. And I'm not sure we know where that is yet.
Commissioner, I don't mean to argue, but we just got done telling employees that every day they should take their garbage out.
Yeah, I know.
Individually.
I totally agree.
I'm sorry, with all due respect, for very small savings.
Yep. Okay.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to focus our employees' attentions on things that'll bring us in long-term savings. We won't waste their time on things but you know what? Our employees are smart. And they realize that by doing some of these things, they're saving jobs in the long run, and they're you know, better utilizing tax dollars. So it's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be okay with it.
Okay.
Sonny?
Well, you know, my memory's a little foggy sometimes, but, you know, dating back to 2008, we started this process. We had to first evaluate what our baseline energy use was, and then we could start to evaluate how much change we're getting as we updated to the higher efficiency lighting fixtures, and as we updated our furnaces, as we changed the water heaters at the swimming pool. You know, we talk about the solar panel that's on top of that facility. The savings of the solar panel is pretty minimal, but the savings of upgrading those water heaters at the same time and those boilers is huge. You know, we contracted for this plan. And I think the thing that we're getting hung up on here is about the implementation. But I truly believe the plan should be accepted as the plan is written. How we implement it, that's going to be another discussion altogether. But the fact is we contracted for a plan that evaluated our baseline energy use and gave us a method by which we can evaluate everything that we do and how it changes our energy use. You know, we can look at these charts on page 22, 23, 24, whatever. You know, I can look at things that have a 20.4 year return on the investment. Well, 4 years from now, that thing's going to be replaced twice. So that doesn't make any sense. But at least it gives us an opportunity to evaluate first what our baseline energy usage was, and what things we can do to minimize how much energy we're using. And we can all talk about, how much energy we're using and all of that, and, it's really nice to talk about how green we are. But the only green I'm going to talk about is how much money it's costing us for our energy use. Because that's the important piece of how green I'm going to get. Is if I can cut down my energy usage and thereby save money, I'm all in favor of that. If I've got to upgrade to different equipment to try to save an extra 2% of energy cost, but that equipment is going to take me 20 years to pay for, it's not happening. I think that, at least from my perspective, I won't be supporting the motion that's written because I'm going to support the plan as it was drafted. This was what the committee was given, the green team was given, it's what SEEDS was given, it's what this board asked for to be constructed. How we implement it from this plan, and as we get into this energy action plan, that's another matter. But the fact is, this plan is solely a way by which we've developed a baseline energy use and a methodology by which we can evaluate what changes we've made in our system and how that's affected our energy use. That's the only thing this plan is.
Commissioner Raymond?
I'm just wondering if the hang-up is the title of the plan, you know, Climate Action Plan. I mean, I like everything that's in here. I mean, I don't have to, you know, we can, like Commissioner Henschel said, you can debate all day on your personal feelings, whether, you know, the emissions are harming our environment or not. But you know, the basis of this whole thing is what we're doing to improve our efficiency and our cost savings, and hopefully less use in coal, electrical use, and those kinds of things is the main goal. So I don't really care if the plan is renamed the Grand Traverse County Energy Efficiency Renewable Action Plan, and the COG, you know, whatever the COG wants to do. I mean, I don't care. I like the document. I like the document, and I'm flexible with the title. I mean, you know, you don't have to, in my opinion, title it the Climate Action Plan, but you know, you can title it the Energy Use Plan.
Larry, you're still
That's
getting
fine.
caught up. These are two completely
I
separate
understand that.
documents.
I understand that. I understand that.
Dennis?
I have a question about the plan, Mike and John, and it's just a personal thing about, how is it that in 2008, we didn't include, I know why we didn't include the courthouse, because it wasn't built, the new court building, but the septic plant was built, and so why was that added? I mean, I know it's, you know, kind of part of ours, but why wasn't it in the initial baseline is what I'm wondering, so that it reflected a greater reduction instead of it now, you know, being another building that adds to our output.
Sure. I'm not sure on the exact details, and I could get back to you on that, on the dates of the construction and what data we actually had available at the time.
I mean, we built it in 2003 and then finished it in 2005 or whatever.
But I don't know if when it was
May of
operational.
2005, and then 30 days later, when the wall fell down, it basically was taken offline for how many months after that?
Yeah, I think that 2005, it wasn't fully operational for a full year, and that's why we redid the baseline for 2009 to, one, expand it better and also make sure that you have a full year, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't in full operation.
So that baseline we used, we went back to get the baseline, didn't we? I'm
Yeah,
starting
you
to
did.
remember this now, because we didn't have current data. We went back to the best data we had.
Right, with a full year.
That's why. Okay, thank you.
And that's why even though this his plan was finished in early 2011, for the baseline, we did 2009 because we didn't have all the complete data for 2010, excuse me.
And one other comment, I had this conversation with John, I guess on Monday. One of the things that was not figured in with the septic plant was the reduction in energy use by not having to incorporate, you know, the land-applied septage into the soil. Because there obviously was an energy cost there that we're not getting now. It'd be a little harder to estimate, but you still could come up with a number. Jason?
One of the reasons I support going down to the 2 pages as we recommended in the Planning Commission is keep it simple. You know, the KISS model. It's unnecessary to have the extra 30-some pages of essentially what amounts to matching up with the nomenclature used by ICLEI, which is an organization that Grand Traverse County no longer subscribes to. ICLEI being and prepare for the eyes glazing over, part of a UN move to get all communities on the same wavelength as far as global warming is concerned. I don't like the language personally. I don't trust it. I don't trust the motives behind it. I think it's more political than any energy savings. If we want to save money for the county, let's save money for the county. Let's drop the garbage about the CO2 and the greenhouse gas emissions, and that's essentially where I'm at, and I've said it before, and I'm not afraid to say it again.
Well, I would point out, Jason, that the Planning Commission, the only reason the Planning Commission was reviewing this was because of the fact that they review everything under the capital improvement budget. So
I understand
think you
that.
guys went a little far afield, and to refer to any language about global warming as, quote, garbage. Obviously, that's a personal opinion.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, we might as well zip our lips shut then. If we cannot speak upon certain things without fear of being ostracized for stepping out of bounds.
I know, well, no one's ostracizing you, Jason. I'm questioning, I'm questioning your opinion here, okay? This is a discussion. This is a discussion about this. You're trying to take what is basically a fairly cut and dried thing, and because you don't like some of the language, you're turning it another political issue, okay?
Well, that's exactly my
You're
point.
free to do that. It's very possible this board will vote with you. I don't know if they will or not.
That's exactly my point. It
But
is a cut and
you're
dry
also
issue.
throwing out the baby with the bathwater, in truncating this, let's keep it simple, but, you're keeping it so simple that it may not be useful at all. Commissioner Inman.
Well, I guess in all respect to Commissioner Gilman's opinion, I don't agree with it. I don't agree that the whole study in the scientific review and how the world and the nations and its top scientists are trying to come to an agreement, and of which most countries around the world have a climate control plan, and the scientists have all come together, and they are working on emission reductions, which they believe, whether you think will harm the environment or not. Why in the world do we want more emissions into our air? We got to breathe this stuff. We got to preserve the environment of this world for future generations, and to keep pumping it with pollution and emissions, whether you agree with global warming or not, I think is wrong. I think we got to find alternate energies. I think we got to reduce that consumption. And I'm not going to argue about global warming or not. The right thing to do is to reduce those emissions, and I don't care what you call it. You can make a case on both sides, but we are seeing some climate changes in our lifetime with the world warming somewhat.
How do you know that?
And
how in the hell do you know that?
Take a look at Greenland. Take a look at the ice caps.
Oh, go away.
Well, you can take a look at that. So that's your personal opinion. Look how many times the bay is frozen over in the last 20 years.
That is my opinion.
We don't need that discussion on global
So any event,
okay, just
I guess I'm here with Sonny saying, we got this climate action plan. Let's get it done. Let's get it done.
So just to I'm sorry, Dick, go ahead.
The part of this plan that refers to saving money for the county and the residents, I agree with. I remember the tongue lashing that Sonny and I and Margaret Underwood got when we disagreed a little bit about global warming. And if I thought that this was going to help the cause of Al Gore, I'd vote against it 10 times a day, because they can't prove a thing with that global warming mess. Climate change, yeah, it changes all the time. It's been changing for 15 billion years.
Okay. Just to clarify, Rob, your motion, you want to adopt just page 19 of the plan through the first sentence on page 21, table 3, no and low-cost measures, and then the original table 7 as presented in the plan.
And also a statement that staff shall take due diligence when implementing any portion of this.
Okay.
Which I think goes without saying, but I just wanted on
Okay,
there.
and that's your understanding, was your second,
my
Jason?
second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to adopt just those portions of the plan. So by roll call, please.
Commissioner Henschel,
Yes.
Limcool,
No.
Thomas,
No.
Max Bauer,
No.
Fleece,
No.
Wheelock,
No.
Gilman,
Yes.
Inman,
No.
Richardson.
No.
Motion failed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Grand Traverse County Climate Action Plan dated February 11 as
Support.
presented.
I have a motion and support. By roll call, please.
Limcool,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Fleece,
No.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Gilman,
No.
Inman,
Yes.
Henschel?
No.
Richardson?
Yes. Motion carries.
Passed.
Okay, that brings us to our next item on the agenda, which is the
Thanks, guys.
GTC Energy Action Plan.
Move for approval.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Who seconded?
Commissioner-
Dick?
Do you want to make a brief presentation?
If you don't mind, brief.
Make it brief,
Brief.
thank you.
Brief would be nice.
My name's Matt McCauley. I'm with the Northwest Michigan Council of Governments, for those of you who don't know me. Our role within our 10-county service area is really to coordinate regional initiatives that provide greater efficiencies for our member units of government. And this last year, through board discussion, one area that is universal amongst all local units of government in the region are energy costs. So we were tasked to find ways where we could reduce energy costs for a variety of units of government throughout the 10-county region, including the 10 counties themselves. So we pitched an idea to the Michigan Public Service Commission, which provided energy audits to each of the 10 counties within our service area, and a select number of townships, villages, and cities throughout that region. The first phase was the audit to identify potential savings, then working with these green energy action teams that was discussed already. But probably most importantly, and I think in defense of a lot of studies and plans that elected boards often see, is that we provided implementation dollars that by participating in this program that the Council of Governments was made available, in this case to Grand Traverse County, $30,000 for the purposes of lighting upgrades. And after the installation of those upgrades, and earlier this evening we did a tour that talked about those upgrades, that the county will realize approximately $16,000 per year in annual savings as a result of those grant dollars from the Council of Governments. And hopefully it also further presents a return on investment, and the county is an investor in the Council of Governments, and us being able to demonstrate value to the county, and in this case in direct energy savings and direct costs.
Is there a way for local businesses to look at what we've done here and be able to implement locally within their own organization?
Yes, actually, last year we worked with the Chamber of Commerce on an application to the USDA for a very similar program. This program was designed only for local units of government, though. But we would like to model it for the business community.
So it would be nice if we could get more of that, because I know that Consumers Energy also has a program that you can apply for grants to be able to upgrade your electricity or your energy efficiency within your buildings.
Right.
So I think there ought to be some way that we could either tie it in somewhere as part of this plan, that here are other organizations that businesses can go into to be able to do their own program within. Mm-hmm. So that would be one of the things that was missed as far as I'm concerned on that.
And again, this program was designed specifically for local units of government, but certainly this action and other actions taken by the county could be integrated into a larger, more comprehensive type of activity that includes the public sector, the private sector, and consumers being the third party involved in this.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Well, I'm inclined to think, Herb, that most businesses are well aware of those programs that are available for upgrading lighting and slow start motors and all of those kind of wonderful things.
Some are, some aren't. Yeah.
Most are, if they have much of an energy use, they're aware of those problems.
Yeah.
I think what we see in this plan is another opportunity for us to identify ways to conserve energy. And that's what this plan does, is it identifies things that we can specifically, you make this change, you will save this amount of energy. And, you know, between these kind of plans, the programs that Cherryland Electric's offering right now, Consumers, City Light and Power, where they will give you the CFLs in place of light bulbs or different types of things, and the public advertising, you know, that tells you you will save energy dollars. And, you know, in this economy, everybody's trying to save every dollar they can. And, you know, like I said earlier, that's the green I want to save. You know, the other part is great, but the green I really want to save is what I'm spending every month in utility bills. And, you know, I do believe that this is a good action plan. You know, I thought it was interesting, the 3 buildings that we selected to identify, because these are our three worst buildings. Mm-hmm. You know, they just are.
My only thing is that these are going to be on the county website, and if anybody wants to go into those and find out whether or not it's replicable with their organization, that they should be able to go in and be able to do something and pull it up and be able to monitor and be able to do something in their own facilities.
A couple questions about the plan. The plan calls for savings to be reinvested into more energy efficient technology, correct? Mm-hmm. So basically the savings, you know, if we got better light bulbs this year, whatever we save in electricity, we just reinvest, correct?
That under the program, we ask that the county invests at a minimum 50% of the savings. 50%. But as I understand it, at a previous board meeting through board decision, that was agreed to that 100% of savings get reinvested. And I would like to note that at the time, Grand Traverse County was the only unit of government to do so, that the other units of government within the region chose the 50%. But since Grand Traverse has chosen that route, many of those units of government has taken a look at that again and have chosen to increase that percentage.
Now, is that percentage, I'm sorry, is the savings based on actual savings or is it based on projected savings?
The county decided on a method for the savings. There's even more accurate ways of determining savings using more extensive calculations like weather normalization. Mm-hmm. But because these are grant dollars, they decided on a method that would get close to it using the Energy Star Portfolio Manager tool that was required for this grant, and it's encouraged to keep that up. So it's really...
So it's projected.
It will be actual savings. It will be based on actual savings, but they won't be weather normalized necessarily. I think that's the only other step that the county could take. But it's really a plus or minus a small percentage year to year, and over time, it's really going to, it's not going to be a factor. So it's going to be on actual savings.
But in terms of the energy savings account, what's going in, that's based on actual savings. What's in here, what we're projecting will go in the energy savings account is different, but what is actually deposited will be based on actual savings when you show year after year demonstration of energy usage.
Okay, but you're not actually measuring, if we lower the temperature in the building, we're going to use less gas, but if employees start plugging in space heaters, we're going to pay more in electricity. So there's no way to fully cost or evaluate the savings?
All of the utility data on a monthly basis goes into a program called Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and that's a way you're able to track your savings.
Magic computer program?
It's
a pretty comprehensive program that it doesn't include just natural gas usage. It includes electrical usage. It includes a variety of different metrics.
Okay. Go ahead, son.
This is kind of a question for Dennis. If we adopt this plan and we've committed the 100% to be reinvested, in the event that we find ourselves in need, is that something where we can't touch that money, or is it a?
It's a pledge on the county's part.
It's a pledge,
I guess I would say. But what we did, Commissioner, to be honest with you, is before we asked you to take that step, we looked back at 5 or 6 years' budgets and what projects we've put into the budgets to commit to energy improvements, and what we've been putting in the budgets already far exceeds. We've already made a big commitment to energy improvements, and so what I'm saying is we kind of budget anyway, and so we didn't think that by committing to this would be over-impacting or overspending what we normally spend before any of these efficiencies. So what I'm saying is, I think we're going to be covered just by what we normally spend. That's kind of how I feel. Only this time, we'll be able to use this money that was saved as opposed to general fund CIP money.
But if the money that was saved was not dedicated to this account, it would be in the general fund.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. We think there's enough energy efficiency things that we can do that we don't have to worry about it for the next several years. We want to continue to make energy improvements in the facilities.
Well, I kind of get what Dennis is saying is, we're going to have to replace a fan motor somewhere in a few years. And no matter what, it's going to be a more efficient motor because all motors get more efficient all the time.
Well, then we're going to put Energy Star when we replace,
Right.
Heat,
Computer.
not computers, Energy Star when we were, furnaces,
easy to do
everything
it.
we do, water heaters, I'm kind of fried, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we're doing that constantly. I really think we're not going to have a problem meeting these guidelines at all.
Any other comments?
Is there any point, I mean, is this, this reinvestment is just perpetual, like forever? Or is there a point, like after the third generation of recycling money, we say, okay, we don't have to follow that? Or maybe there aren't enough return on investments available and the given technology, because we've done everything, we got to wait a few years.
We came up with the idea about an energy savings account to the best of our ability to institutionalize this mindset throughout a variety of local units of government. And prior to this, the mindset existed in Grand Traverse County, but it wasn't universal. And again, keep in mind that many units of government throughout the region are participating in this, and not all of them are as forward-thinking in energy efficiency as Grand Traverse County. But so that was really set up as a pledge, as a commitment to keep this in top of mind. There's nothing legally binding the county. It's your money. And
The energy police won't be here.
The energy police will stay put, guaranteed. And that's something that we wanted to emphasize with this too, is that we're asking for a percentage. We asked for 50% to be reinvested, but that reinvestment is how to use that is decided at a local level, and to what perpetuity or not into perpetuity, that decision will come through this board as well. So
let me give you an example.
It's your money.
Just simply, if we start looking at building code, health department, vehicles, and we start buying 40 or 50 mile per gallon vehicles instead of, buying 20 mile per gallon vehicles, as far as I'm concerned, that's an energy efficiency thing that we haven't even begun to tap. Right. And so if we have extra money sitting around in here and we have to buy new vehicles every 10 years, we can put some money to that. I think there's plenty of things we can do that are going to make this, that are easily going to justify the expense.
Okay. On page 5, the Lighting Conservation Initiative, Turn Out the Lights Initiative, for example, when you guys recommend these kind of things, do you take into account security factors in the buildings? I mean, are we going to have higher incidences of people falling in a dark room, or, is that taken into account when you make recommendations?
I would keep in mind that many of the recommendations came out of the green energy, the energy teams themselves. It's not me recommending this,
Okay.
The people on those teams, and I can speak to the Grand Traverse County team. You have your facilities manager as part of that team that certainly pays attention to those types of things. I don't think that any decision in here was made without a high level of due diligence in terms of what would the consequences be, because you had professional staff involved in this from square one. This isn't the type of plan where it was created from a consultant's desk far, that this really came through your own systems and processes within Grand Traverse County.
Yes, Jason.
Do we have a motion on this yet?
We do have a motion.
Yeah, we're discussing it.
All right, sure.
I have just a couple more questions.
Okay.
On page 6, U.S. Energy Reserves, I find the figures to be kind of misleading, because when they're calculated as if figuring how many years of fuel we have, they're using current technology. They kind of leave out the fact that Michigan has more oil than Texas had. It's just deeper. And every few years, they find a new technology that they can get deeper stuff out, but it costs more.
Right.
So, I guess, is there any, did I miss something in the plan that takes into effect the trends in technology? Or do they just like looking at the bleakest situation possible and throwing it on paper?
I think with all data, you try to be able, you try to use what's available and what you know to be factual. And I think that generally speaking, people know that there'll be greater efficiencies in technology, new extraction methodologies, but there's no way to really quantify that. So if we did, I'm sorry, there are ways to quantify that, but if we did put that in there, then we would get into that, is this the right projection as opposed to this projection? Is it 10%? Is it 15%? And ultimately, the purpose of this is not to talk about energy reserves in the United States 10, 20 years from now, but ultimately this is about providing information that puts energy efficiency in context for Grand Traverse County.
Why then does the report talk about it?
I think it's to provide, the report is intended, this particular report is intended to provide education to the user, to the reader, about issues affecting energy efficiency in Grand Traverse County, in Michigan, and the nation.
Jason?
Is Wikipedia considered a reliable source of scientific data?
That source has been updated, and it's not Wikipedia that we're sourcing here. We're sourcing the U.S. EIA Annual Energy Review of 2003. So
I'm sorry, I didn't say that here.
yeah, it's right in the actual illustration there. It says source U.S. EIA Annual Energy Review of 2003, and this is.
Well, you referenced it to the status of energy at the top, and it still is as a part of the package here. I was just wondering.
Sure.
Larry?
I would agree with you that we could go more specific.
You know, we've talked about the environment tonight, and a real concern I have is, I used to like to use methylate, but they've discontinued that because of mercury. Thermometers, they've virtually wiped them out because they don't want the mercury that's in the thermometers. And on page 31, lighting incandescents to CFL bulbs. And it talks about the CFL can provide equivalent lighting consuming 70 to 80% less energy and last 10 to 15 times longer than most incandescent light bulbs. My practical experience that I've had in my home and my business is that's a very false statement. And if you read the packet on CFL bulbs, there isn't anybody that's going to follow those. There would be very few people that would follow those instructions. It's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous what you have to do if a CFL bulb breaks. Have you ever read those? I'll not be voting for this plan because I've noticed throughout this there are several incidences like that, and as far as I'm concerned, you pay a lot more for a CFL bulb, but I've noticed, and I have a chandelier in my living room that I had 4 of them in there, and they kept burning out. So finally, I got half incandescent, and guess what? My lighting's a lot better. It's instantaneous. I don't have to wait. And as far as energy savings, I don't know about that. LED, different story. But the concern for years has been mercury. And here we are introducing mercury to our landfills by, I don't know how big of a impact, but certainly a large impact.
I believe it's page 7, it refers to the scientific community raising its voice even louder concerning the energy usage. What is the measure of volume? Or is that just for color?
I'm sorry, what's the reference to? Page 7.
Let's see, on the energy plan, I might have the wrong page down.
Maybe just a quick answer is to say that the state passed a landmark bill, the Public Act 295, which required utilities to make significant improvements in energy efficiency. And I think that the volume is increasing is demonstrated by the number of changes that we're seeing within the state and within the utilities themselves to make this a priority. So.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. By roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
No.
Fleece?
No.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Gilman?
No.
Inman?
Yes.
Henschel?
No.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
5-4.
Okay, motion passes 5-4.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. If everyone is in agreement, why don't we take about a 5-minute break? Back shortly.
I just wanted to get you up off your chair.
You're the one that wanted to start these at 7 o'clock at night.
I called Dan Scott. I got to be in sewer and water tomorrow and talk about this at the treatment plant. So I'm going to miss the meeting just for 1 month. Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting?
It is.
It's,
It is
well,
interesting.
really.
And I'm using it
Okay,
to put the budget together.
Absolutely.
You know what's interesting
Call
about
the meeting
Even
back
though we
to
all
order,
have a lot of
please.
different ideas, we're really fairly close.
Larry did.
All right, we're
Okay, this is, welcome back to the Resource Management Administration meeting, and, find my agenda, there it is. Okay, next we have job reclassifications. Jen?
Jen Seaman, Human Resources Director with Grand Traverse County. Last week, we discussed the job reclassifications, and Dennis and I are here to further discuss this with all of you. We've talked about this quite a bit, and really, if we do it for one employee, we should look at it, do it for all the employees in terms of job reclassification requests. And obviously, looking at that in terms of where we're at with the budget does put us in a interesting position right now. And so we definitely think it's something that we should be discussed, that should be discussed as we head into the budget. And it's here for you tonight.
So,
Dennis?
if I could, Jen and I are in total agreement with this recommendation. We believe that the point factor system, as the volunteer group told us of personnel managers, it's valid and it works. And they also said the new job descriptions that Siegel gave us are valid and work. And so what we're suggesting here is, for the time being, we not worry about the market issue, deal with the market issue down the road, because that's much more extensive. But here's a process to reevaluate positions. Now, this is what we've recommended last week. Okay, and we believe it's what makes sense to move the system forward. But now I have to tell you, in all honesty, after we wrote this, and after I've been through this last week of budgets, and still being $1.5 million short, I just don't know. I want to be clear with you that this will have a financial impact, and I frankly feel the only way, if we implement this, it's going to cost us annually, and it's going to mean we're going to have to continue to cut positions in order to keep this funding for this going. It's just a very strong concern. And so really, I think at this point, this is a valid way to do it, and if you want to do it, this is the way I would do it. But I have to, in all honesty, tell you, I'm really concerned about the financial implications of it, because this budget is, we're basically taking our budget back to 2007 revenue levels. We had to cut almost more than 4 million, and we still have a little ways to go, although we'll have it ready for you next week. But, I'm just saying, I have mixed emotions about this, because it's the right thing to do for our employees, but frankly, it's going to have an impact financially, and the only thing I can tell you right now is it's going to mean in future years potentially more cuts unless revenues increase in order to continue to run the system this way. So that's kind of the two sides of it. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Dennis, I have a question. Back when we were discussing the Siegel situation, I believe the board said that if there was a differential, it wouldn't occur all in 1 year. It would be spread out over a number of years in terms of the implementation of the...
We had proposed 3 to 5 years to implement, and I think we settled on 3 is what we recommended to you.
So, I don't know why we wouldn't have... I personally believe we've got to have something in place to address positions that have changed in responsibility or additional responsibilities, and we should have a mechanism to review those. And I think it's perfectly reasonable to tell the employee that in those situations where we're changing classifications, that there will be a period of time where we're going to bridge you into where we think those compensation levels will be over a period of time, and 3 years is very reasonable.
Well, that's an interesting, we hadn't thought of
and
that.
I just soon handle it that way than all just 1 year hit. So I think that's a good compromise. I think that's the best compromise, is to allow you to move forward with a recommendation, and if there's a differential, it's implemented over a 3-year period.
Jason?
Would I be I mean, understanding this, we're looking at trying to balance out more than anything the responsibilities with, I mean, are we trying to correct an inequity
Inequities internally,
internally?
amongst employees, basically.
Would we be, and I may have mentioned this to you before, would we be expending a lot of energy if we were to look at the big picture and set up a whole secondary classification and model it, look at it, and then apply it? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I remember having this discussion with you a while ago, but I can't remember the...
Essentially, creating a whole new set of job classifications, balancing out, looking at the responsibilities, and it's, modeling it based on what's existing, but allowing us to look at the actual structure and redevelop it versus doing it one by one, taking these one by one.
That's called a Siegel study.
Well, what I'm saying is completely, I mean, human resources might be called something else, is what I'm saying. Do you get where I'm going on this?
No?
That's why you're laughing.
No, I do remember, yeah, I do.
It would be a bold step.
It would be bold. It would be creative. I don't know if it would be defensible, but it's certainly something that we could discuss.
Defensible.
But I think that would be something we would need to discuss, I think, in more detail in a closed session to discuss that idea.
Commissioner Fleece.
I'd like to make a motion that we not adopt a recommendation for the job reclassification request at this time due to the economic implications of it. And I say that when our employees, and I understand the fairness of it, but our employees need to realize it's better to have a job than to be laid off because we can't afford to have you anymore. In the private sector, I know a lot of businesses that aren't giving their employees any kind of a raise because they can't afford to. Our employees at least are getting a little bit of a raise, or have been, each year, and I think that'll continue through 2014. And that's the reason for my motion, is I think we ought to sit tight, and I think the employees ought to understand that, and I'm sure they will. I would rather see us keep as many employees as we can rather than put them in the unemployment line.
Would you be willing to add a timeline to your motion as to how long we're going to not look at things?
This is 2011 we're talking about. I would say to 2014. Unless conditions, see, we can always change it. If the economic conditions turn around in 2013 and it's 2008 all over again, things are really going in 2007, well, then we can reevaluate that. But right now, I think we're better off to sit till 2014, which kind of coincides with the contracts and the agreements we have with our employees anyway.
I have a second.
I would support that through the end of 2012.
So that's the budget we're working on.
You accept that?
I don't understand why you wouldn't go there, and if we have to, we can change it in 2012.
Exactly.
This way, we don't have to revisit it in another year. Because
I'll support your
1 year
first
from
motion
today, we'd be talking about
Honestly, Larry, your original motion didn't have a time limit at all. It just
Oh,
says
that's true.
we're just rejecting a period until somebody brings it up again, right?
Well, that's true. And that's why his suggestion was a good one. And that's why I put 2014.
I'll support your motion.
Okay, so it's 2014?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself when Commissioner Gilman was talking about, shouldn't we take a look at maybe human resources and call it something else, and says, that was Public Strategies Group that you voted against the budgeting process, and I just had to say that.
Thank you. Well, but I have to add that Commissioner Gilman was going a little, his proposal goes quite a bit past what Public Strategy says, so it's even more forward-thinking.
Yes, forward thinking. I like that.
Well, determine what you want. I don't even want to get into that discussion right now. I guess my point is, this is a reclassification. How do we handle reclassification requests? We haven't done reclassifications now for 5 years.
Pretty close.
Pretty close to 5 years.
Pretty close.
Pretty close to 5 years.
Yeah.
We have a lot of jobs that have changed. They've changed in duties and responsibilities, and therefore, I believe we have to have a provision by which those jobs that have changed or new jobs that we created can be reclassified.
Right.
And that's why I won't support the motion to not do these. Now, just because we reclassify it doesn't necessarily bring a financial thing. You know, we can play with the financials like Larry talked about earlier, and how we implement those reclassifications over a time frame. But the fact is that we have people, that the job that they're doing today is not what they were doing 5 years ago, and they should be given the opportunity to have their job reclassified. And that's what this motion asks for. Or that's what this proposal asks for.
Jason, then Duke.
Just to counter that just a little bit, if every time we tighten up a department and the person gets moved off or through attrition isn't replaced, they're going to take on added responsibilities. If every time we do that, we reclassify a job description, we're going to be doing this ad nauseum. I personally, I think Commissioner Fleece's motion is probably correct.
Yeah.
But we have to have a mechanism for taking care of some employees, not all of them. This has been going on for too long, where we just haven't had any mechanism for doing anything with them, and we've got to. And that's why when you started in, it sure sounds like Siegel to me.
Rob?
If you remember right, I voted against that.
Thank you. I guess the reason I support the motion is the same reasons it was moved, and that is we're in tight times. And I certainly don't disagree with the argument that we need to take care of our employees, but with what? There's no extra right now. We're in, the state, the nation's been in an economic downturn for a while. I know in other places of work, people are taking on extra responsibility, picking up extra slack. That's just part of getting through the hard times. And, I'm sorry you had to pick up something a little extra and for the same pay, but you got to keep your job. I know owners of businesses that haven't taken raises in a decade, and they're picking up more stuff right now.
I do have a question for both Jen and Dennis. What will the implications be if we don't resolve this in some fashion?
Well, I think it'll just continue to go on the way it is. I mean, hopefully employees will understand the economic situation that we're in. I think the frustration level will increase, but I mean, everybody's frustration level is increasing. I mean, I don't think it has any union implications. I don't think it has any legal implications. It's really just an employee fairness issue.
Okay. Do you have any estimate of how many, reclassification requests you would get if we were to pass this motion?
I can tell you that according to Marilyn Brown, who was our HR director at the time, she had over 70 reclassification requests on her desk when we decided to go forth and do Siegel. Now, those may have changed, the jobs may have been eliminated, I don't know anymore, but that was some of the volume we had then. During Siegel, we allowed departments to come in and petition for their jobs to be reviewed, and I think the county board approved every one of those.
to have it relooked at when we were still talking about Siegel. Some of you will remember. And I want to say there were 15 or so, that's a guess, but about 15 positions that were, now that's saying after Siegel changed a bunch of those 75 or 80, there were still 15 more positions. They might have 5 people or 10 people in a position that came back and said, we'd like this to be relooked at based on what Siegel said. We'd like it to be relooked at. We don't believe what Siegel said is right. So a lot of it was addressed in Siegel for those 75 positions, but of course we didn't adopt any of that. So my guess is we've got 75 to 90 positions that might make a claim for reclassification. Now, under the criteria, they may not qualify.
It's 75 to 90 separate
positions, job titles.
Well, I think the main objective of an employee's request for reclassification is for the financial incentives behind it.
No question.
And to have a reclassification and not offer the financial incentive, I think would absolutely be demoralizing. And I think it would worsen our condition. When the economic times improve, we can certainly look at the reclassifications, and if there's some that we need to upgrade and provide the financial incentives, we would do it. But I could see, for example, in the sheriff's department, yep, deputy, we're going to reclassify you to sergeant, but there's no money. So you got 6 sergeants getting X amount of pay. You got one that isn't because there isn't anything to...
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, Commissioner. If it wasn't tied to a compensation revision, I wouldn't even consider it.
Yeah.
Well, we have placed, I can see both points of view. We have placed the employees on notice, I think 3 times. The board has taken action, and the commission and the chairman has sent out a letter, or the administrator, indicating that the board over the previous years have elected not to move forward with Siegel or additional classification reviews, and due to the unknown economic times, not only that year but for the preceding years. And the last letter we sent out was last year, indicating that until further notice, we would not be spending any time reevaluating the Siegel process until the economic situation at least shows some level of leveling off or improvement. So we already have had that position in place as a policy, and I guess I see it from both perspectives. I guess I agree with Commissioner Fleece on his opinion in the previous positions of the boards. Previous boards. I just feel, I guess, that on the corner edge that, if a job has really changed dramatically, that, does the employer have a responsibility to review that? And I think we do. So I know you can't have both sides. I mean, if the person has the same job, only he just feels it's worth more, then, I say no. I mean, but if there's something totally different going on within a position, then maybe we could take a look at it one by one. But where do you draw the line where the fairness is? I don't think you can create one. So I guess it's either you're in or you're out.
Chris?
I think we need to classify jobs properly. And the way to handle our financial problems, in my opinion, is through negotiation. Be it a wage freeze, requesting a wage freeze. I do know that there are townships that have had wage freezes for their staff, in effect, for 1.5 years. Now, as far as, waiting until times get better, I took a look at the employment numbers for this summer. And this is the first summer in 5 or 6, I can't remember which exactly, where actually, you know, our summers have always been a time where people can find work. Not this year. So I'm not looking for a real improvement in the economy anytime soon. So the question is, how many years are we going to go without reclassifying the jobs? I think that if we want to save money, if we have to save money, I think the way to do it is wage freeze, not ignoring proper classifications.
The way to save money is what?
A wage freeze through union negotiations.
Could you read the motion, please? Oh, I'm sorry, Sonny.
Well, I guess, you know, I still come back to the thing, we need to be properly classifying our people, you know? And the idea that, you know, we have negotiated contracts that have, you know, 1.75% this year and 1.5% next year, whatever it is. The fact remains, if the classifications aren't right now, every time you put that multiplier on, it gets worse. So, you know, I really believe we should be properly classifying our employees. And we've been putting them off for 5 years without doing any classifications. I believe we owe it to our employees to do the classifications. If that means that we have 3 less employees at the end of the reclassification, so be it.
Me?
Yes, Commissioner Edmund.
I guess I agree partly with Sonny on this, and that we should have something in process that evaluates this. And, you know, I still believe that if we got to tell the employee it's going to be bridged over a 3 or 5 year period, even a 5 year period, that would be fine. You know, if we would have looked back and said to our unions when we were doing our collective bargaining, no raises, and those raises didn't occur for the last 3 years, we probably would have a differential where we could do job classifications and cover our people and pay them correctly. So, you know, maybe we're going to do this two-folded. You know, maybe we're just going to say, you know, I know we've already bargained for the next 3 years with all our unions to get health care, but at some point in time, we're going to have to realize that we've got to have a limit as to the compensation amount we're going to have to pay our employees.
I have a question for Dennis. Dennis, can we reopen negotiations if necessary?
Well, we can request.
We can request.
We can request it, correct, Jen?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have to agree.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, Bonnie, do you want to read the motion, please?
The motion is not to adopt the recommendation due to economic implications at this time until 2014.
Until or through? Is it until?
Oh, through.
Yeah, through 2014.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Maxbauer?
No.
Fleece?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Gilman?
Yes.
Inman?
No.
Henschel?
Yes.
Lemkool?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Richardson?
No.
Motion failed.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the recommendation as outlined by the, for job reclassifications as outlined by the HR director and the county administrator.
I would support it, but I would like to add that any wage increases would be calculated over a 3-year period,
What about decreases?
or decreases would be calculated over a 3-year period, either one.
You know, we proposed in here that, and we've never talked that way, but we've said if a job comes back and it decreases, we decrease the pay.
Yeah, but it's a 3-year process before you do that. And the reason why I want to support this is because of the last sentence in the third from last paragraph. If pay increases is recommended, it would be responsibility of department head, judge, or elected official to work with the finance to make sure they have the necessary funds to accommodate such an increase in their budget. So that's the one sentence that allows me to say I can support this. But if you would agree with the 3 years, Sonny.
That's fine.
Could I have clarification of the motion? Is it would be implemented in 3 years, or it would be stepped, you know, over a 3-year period?
Pay increases or decreases would be stepped, but we would do
Okay,
a classification.
All right, okay, very good.
And Jen, that's doable?
All right.
Reclassifications can happen right away, but
Yeah.
if there's a financial impact, that will be spread.
It would be divided 2012,
years.
13, and 14.
Correct. Right.
A third, a third, a third.
Commissioner Fleece,
No.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes.
Henschel,
No.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Motion carries 7-2.
Okay,
Okay,
Jen?
now we go to
stay there.
Sir.
consideration of eliminating personal leave payouts for non-union employees.
Just to summarize this recommendation, we did a lot of negotiations with the unions. Here, what we're proposing, you have a letter from some representatives of non-union employees who worked with the non-union group to kind of say how they felt about this issue. And I guess and I'm recommending something a little bit different. They're saying, please don't limit the 3 out of 8 days now, and they're saying, wait to see what happens in 2012. I think really we should treat them the same way we treated the other units that had the opportunity. In my discussions with them, they are saying, if we were considered to get the same benefit that the unions got, and the same wage increases, and the freeze on the health care at 6 and 8, like our other units that signed on did, that they would be fine with that. So my feeling is to treat them equitably. That's what I'm recommending. But if you're not willing to do that because of the economic conditions, then what I'm recommending is that we not freeze their 3 days this year, because they may very well be subject to the 20% health care pay cost next year without any say on their part.
Sonny?
I object to the fact that we find ourselves negotiating with non-union employees, but at the same time, I don't want to create second-class citizens in our employees either. So it becomes very difficult. I tend to agree with the recommendation because as everyone in the room and probably most of the community knows, I want a master contract. I want all county employees to have the same contract. This wording brings them to the same contract that we've negotiated with 5 units now?
For the personal days, 5 units. Correct.
No, so we're truly getting much closer to a master contract countywide, and we will get there. I probably won't be here long enough to make it happen.
My problem is that the difference is that on the one hand, we have union contracts, which are even recognized in whatever legislation is being proposed in Lansing. On the other hand, we don't have a union contract. What we have is a whole bunch of ifs. If Lansing passes some version of, an increased participation on health insurance, if this county board and future county boards over a period of 3 years agree to honor, a wage promise, which they have no legal binding need to honor. And on top of that, we would have to agree now to take a 2/3 majority vote to override legislation which may or may not be passed in Lansing. On top of that, we're asking them to take we're not going to pay them for the 3 extra days this year. It's already mid-August, and so they only really have 4.5 months to react to the fact that if they don't use the days, they will lose them, where if they'd known that a little earlier in the year, they could adjust. And so my personal feeling is let it go for this year, look at it next year, when we have a better idea what Lansing is going to do and what kind of hoops we're all going to have to jump through.
And that's why we put the second recommendation in, because I think that the recommendation I make is based on equity, but I think it's difficult to implement for this board because of the very things you said.
I would just like to clarify, the payout occurs December 1st, so they'd have to use it by December 1st. So you're actually looking at a much earlier timeline than what you
So it's really only 3.5 months
Right.
aside instead of 4.5
Yes,
months.
correct.
I mean, they might have taken some of those personal days instead of vacation or
Might
whatever.
have,
I mean, you know,
but-
The point is that,
Mhm.
you know, we're coming a little late to the table with it.
Mhm.
Jason?
Could I just move that we adopt the second recommendation as you've described it, that we just, that they be allowed to maintain their present rules for use of personal days for this year and reevaluate it in January?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Inman. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I thought we'd spend half an hour on that. Must be getting tired. Okay, next we have the second amendment to Resolution 297-2010 regarding appointment policy and procedure.
And you're going to stick around, Jen, right, for the other issue?
Oh, that was the,
This is on page 66.
I have a comment on that.
So this is the redone procedure, I'm sorry, that was developed by Bob Cooney based on the discussions that you had
Right.
regarding review of
the background check.
background checks. Thank you. And this is his recommended change.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Larry?
On page 73, which is the appointment application proposed, says, "Have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor offense? If yes, list the offenses, dates, and any other related information." I forget the exact year, but all traffic violations used to be misdemeanors.
Right.
Today, financial responsibility and registration are still misdemeanors with a few others intermingled. So if you take a person and they fill it out, a lot of people will have completely forgotten that the traffic violations they received were misdemeanors.
I agree.
And so consequently, they would falsely answer the question. I think we ought to strike that whole misdemeanor offense completely. If you want to put, or if you want to leave it in there, make it a high court misdemeanor.
Nobody will understand what that is, right?
Well, the person that has it would.
Would they?
Oh, yeah.
What about?
Yeah, because there's a significant difference in the penalty for high court misdemeanor. See, a misdemeanor used to be punishable, and still is, up to 90 days and/or $100 fine. High court misdemeanors are up to a year.
See, I think if your suggestion of eliminating the sentence altogether, if we do the background check, they're still going to show, but we're not putting the person in a position to have misstated something. In other words, you'll still get the information, I believe, when the background check is done, correct?
You won't get it on misdemeanor traffic.
That's fine.
But do you really want that?
No, but it's a question of answering something truthfully.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
It's
we
an
do what you
integrity
suggested
deal.
and remove it, we're not putting them in a position to give an incorrect answer because they can't remember.
Yeah, if you remove it, I don't see, yeah, because a high court misdemeanor is going to come right up.
I see a little problem with the Veterans Affairs Committee applicants. It says, please indicate the years in conflict. Well, a lot of people were in when there was no conflict. I think you should strike the conflict part of it.
Oh, well, I can
Just
speak to
indicate
that. I
years of
sit on the
service.
Veterans Board, and the reason they ask that question is because they want an applicant, like World War II.
That's right.
Doc's the World War II vet. Jim Tompkins is the Korean vet, and that's how they...
They have a member from each conflict.
Exactly.
But isn't that defined by the years of service?
No.
No,
No,
I was in between conflicts.
Well, I know, but that's what I mean. I mean,
And then he got married
I
and
mean,
that took care of
if
that.
the Korean War ended in 1953 or 52, and you said you went in 54, nobody thinks you were a Korean War
But
veteran.
he could have been in without going to the Korean War, too.
True.
No, but the ones that are presently set on the board were there during the conflict. It's like 1991 war, Vietnam, you know.
Okay, well, but then my next question would be, is, you know, if you never got overseas, let's say you served during the Korean War, but you were always stateside. So, are you still a Korean War veteran?
No.
No.
Okay.
See, they've changed the rules for the benefits. It used to be a veteran actually had to be in a combat situation. That's all changed. But for members sitting on the Veterans Affairs Board, they still go by the old rule of conflict. You know, you had to be engaged during the conflict or over there, you know.
You know, I sat on this committee, and it's my belief that 99% of the discussion that occurred when we brought this thing back was to establish the process and not mess with the application. You know, we were fine, the committee was, if I could speak on behalf of the committee, and I can't remember who chaired it, that we were fine with the general question, have you ever been convicted of a crime? The question was when we were going to do the background check, and we didn't want to make the appointment and then do the background check and find out that there was an issue that we hadn't had the ability to discuss with the applicant, whether, you know, if it was a problem or not. We wanted the background check done prior to the interview, so when we came to that question, we would have that as a question at the interview process to clarify that, you know, whether there was something that we picked up so we can have an explanation of it one-on-one. So we would either have a comfort level or not have a comfort level in recommending the appointment to the Board of Commissioners. So, you know, I still think that, you know, that the whole issue that we brought forward to the board was, do we agree that we should do the background check prior to the interview process? And the board said yes. I think we leave the interview questions alone, say, have you been convicted of a crime? If so, explain. Leave it very general. Let them write what they want on there. And then there is absolutely no problem, in my opinion, of addressing anything that comes up at the interview process once we have the background check that we can discuss or not discuss with the applicant. Because we'll have all the information anyways. Right. So I don't think we need to be specific on a misdemeanor or a felony or the dates or all that other stuff and have them running around trying to figure out what these dates are. They're going to be a nightmare. I think just leave that application alone the way it was originally and agree that we're going to have a process that we're going to do the background check prior to the interview and have it available to the interview committee.
Commissioner Wheelock?
You know, I guess I have a couple of different points. One, you know, in regard to the misdemeanors, you could exclude traffic. You know, that would be the simple thing to do, just exclude traffic. Of course, then, you know, you have the potential someone says, well, I was involved in a drunk driving incident, but that was a traffic ticket, so I don't have to do that, you know, but that would be, you know, maybe stretching it a little bit. You know, I tend to question whether we want to do background checks on everyone who applies. You know, I've been here long enough to see, you know, I think we had road commission applications one time, we had 60 of them or some silly thing like that, you know, and I don't want to do background checks on 60 people for one position, or two or three.
The ones we were choosing to interview.
You know, well, and that, the point is we have to be very, very careful when we advertise for positions and we conduct interviews, because if you start selecting who you're going to interview and who you're not, and who you're going to do background checks on and who you're not, you know, then you're starting to get into personal rights too, you know, and along with the fact that you get a open meeting situation if two or three of us get together and start wading through these things and say, well, we're not going to interview this person, because then you are deliberating toward the result, and that's not an acceptable thing to do. You know, I still think you do the interview process, you ask in reasonable clear language on the application. Have you ever been convicted of a crime, misdemeanor, felony, or just have you ever been convicted of a crime? Explain. If yes, explain. You know, I'm pretty sure that I've seen a couple traffic tickets in my day, but I sure as hell can't give you the dates of them. You know, so to ask what the dates are, you know, but I don't believe it makes any sense to do background checks of every person that we're going to interview, because a number of those people that we're going to interview probably aren't going to be qualified for the position, or may not be qualified for the position, I should say.
How many commissioners have had a background check? I mean for this job.
Oh, not for this job.
I'm sure the Record Eagles looked into all of us.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. You can just go online and do that.
That's all I meant, is for this job.
Well,
Maybe we shouldn't be quite so picky.
Yeah, well, my concern is that you go through the interview process, you come back and you make, at that committee setting, you make a recommendation, and then that gets forwarded to the Board of Commissioners, and then they go through this process of a background check, and something pops up on a recommendation. Then you got to go back to the person who thinks he's going to get the position and have a discussion, and in some cases nullify the recommendation and go back and make a decision on the remaining applicants. I would just soon have that information available at the time of interview. Then I know if I got an issue or I don't have an issue with an applicant. That's just my personal opinion. And I checked with Dennis, and he got back with me and said, Larry, I believe you said this is a pretty simple process.
It is.
Really, it doesn't cost us very much to do.
Right.
You just key in some stuff, and boom, it comes up. And
you know, Commissioner Wheelock is right. When we did the road commission, we had 60 applicants, but that's very, very unusual. You know, usually I think we have 2, 3, 4 applicants for a position, and it would really take literally 10 minutes to do the background check. So I don't think that's it should not be an overriding concern of yours.
Any further?
We're really lucky. When I was out at Green Lake Township, I used to have to tackle people out in the road and threaten them to get them to go on the planning commission.
That's true.
Could you read the motion?
Larry, I think one of the questions is, do you want me to change my motion to reflect the issue of taking that one sentence out of there?
I didn't know you'd made a motion.
I did, made a motion to accept this.
Yeah,
So,
we're getting old.
so I just want to clarify if that is something that's going to be a problem for everybody here. If it is, I can amend my motion if you'd like.
Maybe we could just say, or leave in there, have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor offense? Yes or no? And, you know, no dates or nothing, because it's going to show up on the Gizzy anyway. But
I don't want people lying on this thing if they don't.
Really, I think we ought to just eliminate the thing, because,
Yeah.
I mean, if they're drunk driving, it's going to show up anyway.
So,
Or if they're a sexual
why don't we just
pervert,
eliminate
it's
it?
going to show up.
Okay.
Because you've got the disclosure, we're going to do a background check on the application anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you, I'm
That's messed up. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You really want to ask them if they've been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor. Crime is too broad, felony or misdemeanor, to really get at that truthfulness. I can't remember who said that, but that's part of filling out the background check. We've found out people say no, and then we find something in their background, and it's really getting at, I mean, you're signing here saying that you're signing that everything is true to the best of your knowledge. So you want to...
But an issue, Jen, I think is, you know, that, you know, there are some misdemeanors that are not serious enough for commissioners to say you shouldn't sit on a board. And so the point is, you can ask the question about felony, and if they say no, you say, and there are felonies, well, they misrepresented themselves. If you don't ask the question about misdemeanor, you're not asking them to say yes or no, but if misdemeanors show up that are a concern to commissioners when they see the background check, they can say, well, they didn't lie about it, but this is something that's a concern. We're not going to put this person on the board.
So,
Just that's kind of
traffic. My only point here is that when we put on a job application, this is a sentence we ask. These people are going to work for Grand Traverse County. It's the same thing as a job application. Same identical questions. We aren't going to be discriminated. It's the same information, so why not leave it there? I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, you can come to miss some excellent candidates that could be voluntarily serving on boards for the county by mere virtue of, say, they had a drunk driving 10 years ago. Well, we're not taking any drunk driving convictions. Well, that's wrong, because the statute just keeps going back, and look how definitive that's got. Now, if you've had 3 convictions in 10 years, it's third offense automatically, and so what? They get 6, 7, 8. You know, I think we might be getting too picky, and you got to weigh each one on its own.
And I think listing the dates and everything, you know, I don't know how they're going to run. I mean,
I don't think they need the dates.
I don't think we need those dates.
Because we're going to get the dates.
We're going to get the dates anyway.
That's right.
And they don't have to run around and do their own checks.
So.
He's got the motion on the floor.
Yeah, so where are we at? You want to leave the question on misdemeanors in there? Is that correct, Herb?
I'm going to change the motion for, we're going to have you ever been convicted of misdemeanor offense, yes or no, and then eliminate the other part of that sentence.
Yeah.
That would be my motion.
Yeah.
So the second.
Wait, so you're eliminating the dates or what?
Yeah.
He's eliminating the
Because
second
we're gonna
sentence.
pick up
Oh,
the
I
dates.
see, okay.
Well,
Have you ever been convicted,
Yeah.
yes or no? Just
Don't
leave it
list
at
them.
that.
Just leave it that.
And
Okay.
can we
What about
just
the felon?
suggest that we take the dates and stuff off the felonies the same way?
That's fine, too.
Because there's,
Yeah,
if
because
they've
you're
got
going
a
to find
felony,
it.
we're going to get the date and the offense.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay. I got mine fixed.
And are we in agreement that we'll do the background check prior to
Before.
the interview
Yeah.
process?
Yes.
All right, okay.
Okay, all right. Everybody good with this?
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Wow.
All right.
Hard.
All good.
You're not going to spend a lot of time on the online survey.
What's that?
Survey. So you're not going to spend a lot of time with the online budget survey results.
This is important stuff. No,
We're going to
I'm
move the
not.
rest of the items to next week's meeting.
I'll be quick. But anyway, on page 77, this is the survey. Now, I just want to remind you, this is not a scientific survey. It's really one tool for you to use when you get in the budget discussion. But the first question on page 77, you can look at the graph, and it kind of shows you how the 300 or so people felt about the relative value or how they would spend $100. And so that just gives you some information for you to use down the road. And then on page 79, we asked a question to ask them to rank these various categories. Some programs might be in 2 or 3 categories, but it was just to give you a little more information in that one. Law enforcement got the highest ranking. Human services got the second highest ranking. Transportation got the third highest ranking. I can tell you from my experience, that's a little bit different because transportation is usually 1 or 2. So that was a little bit of a change. And I think the change really was in human services moved up in terms of its relative importance. Now, but the thing I'm pointing out is that it's not scientific. For example, we got a lot of participation from our Commission on Aging clients. Okay?
Oh, yes, we did.
Did that skew things? Very possibly. Who knows? But so that's what I'm saying. It's one
Certainly
tool.
skewed your human resources, or your human services.
Potentially. So anyway, that's enough on that. Just use it as a tool when we get into budget. And, okay, that's the end of that one.
I got one question for you, Dennis.
Yeah.
As we've been going around to our townships and kind of giving commissioners report, we talk about the budget process and prioritization, ranking, everything.
Yep.
And I have been saying also on our website, we have this survey. So.
We did through last Wednesday.
Yeah, but the question is, you know, if we get more survey results, I mean, is it possible by?
It's closed now. I mean, we took it off.
totally closed. That's
Yeah.
what the computer.
You can decide to put it back on, but, you know, then you get into a situation of we used the timeline that the county board adopted.
Right.
Okay? You can decide to put another survey up or re-put the survey up at another time. We can do that any way you want to, but I don't think
So
it's
I gotta
something.
stop reporting to people.
Don't-
Don't
Yes.
go
They
on
aren't gonna
the
put
Yes,
the
you need to
survey.
stop.
That's correct.
Report their questions.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You know, you're talking about the reports to the townships. You particular, like with Union and, I'm not sure about
Fife Lake
Lake.
Township, Fife Lake
But,
Village, Acme, Whitewater.
I asked on behalf of Mayfield if if they could use the county website to do like RFPs and stuff.
Well,
And Chris checked into it and they came back. And Sarah, they're going, on the county website, they're gonna put an area in for townships and municipal government. And Sarah's the one that apparently is gonna coordinate that. And if she's not available, Chris will.
Yep.
But that's really helpful to them small townships that don't have websites.
So we were going to send you some info on that once we get it set up. But Mayfield's on there, I think, but we are going to set a special section, so any local units or schools that want to, get their RFPs out there, we can do that for them. So it was a good suggestion. On to my administrator's update. Are you ready?
Yeah, do you want to do that?
MSU thing first?
Yeah.
We can. All right, so in terms of MSU, early this week, we received a request from Teamsters General indicating that they had received an indication of interest from county employees in MSU Extension, who wanted to petition to be part of the Teamsters General Unit. Okay. And we had our legal counsel look at it, and Jen and I were planning on coming here tonight and recommending that they were asking that they be allowed to join by
Voluntary recognition.
a voluntary
of the county.
recognition, so in other words, we wouldn't challenge it. The only reason not to challenge it would be, or our past reasons, we have always challenged these things, and the reason we have is because we want every employee who's being considered to be able to vote and have their own say in a democratic process. So that was the reason. We talked with Bob Donick, who represents the group today, and Bob told us today, we're talking about 4 employees. He believes all 4 are in support of doing this. So we're going to change our recommendation a little bit. We're going to say, he's told us by Friday he will have a letter to us signed by all 4 employees saying, we want to join this union. And I believe that they will, because they are being looked at during this budget, and there will be cuts in that department. And so they're saying, give me some protection. We have 21-year employees and those kinds of things. And to say, no, we're going to require election, all that, if all 4 sign it, they're the only 4 that will vote, and if all 4 sign it and we have an election, we're going to have a considerable amount of expenses in setting up an election, in running the election, and the county's responsible for that. And I don't see any reason to spend the money if all 4 say we want to be part of the union. So my request to you tonight is to say that, is that you give us authorization that if we received the signed request by all 4 of the employees that are being discussed here by Friday, that we just let them accrete into the union. If we don't, even if one says no, then we say, nope, you have to have an election, and we go through the cost and the election process.
Is there a date?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a date we have to give them an answer by?
No, except that they can file for an election at any date. So they don't, they can go to there and just.
Why don't you just bring this to us next week?
They asked us to respond by
They
Friday.
asked us to respond by Friday. That's why.
But they're not giving us the letter till Friday?
No. They gave us a letter on Monday saying, these employees have petitioned to be in the union.
But they didn't sign the letter.
No,
That's what I'm
it comes
talking
from
about.
the unions. It doesn't come from the employees.
And we have a motion from Commissioner Fleece, I'll support for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Rob, are you still?
Go ahead.
Okay, Larry Inman first, then Jason.
I guess I have
then
a clarification, Dennis. Is it that they want to create their own union of 4, or they want to
join
merge
Teamsters
into
General.
another union?
They want to
bargaining
join
collective?
Teamsters General. And all employees have to do is make a request to a union, and under Michigan Employee Relations Commission, they have the right to an election. And when we did it with the BPW, for example, in that case, we knew
that some of the employees were in favor of it and some were not. And so we required an election.
Does the current collective bargaining unit they want to get into have a right to vote to have them in or not in?
No.
All right.
No.
Okay.
No.
Jason?
As far as joint, does that change any classification that they will have?
That's a good question, Commissioner. I don't think we've looked at that yet, have we, Jen?
It won't change their classification, but the classification that they're in might be off by a few pennies or so within their wages because of overtime of wage increases. It's small. I don't know exactly, to be honest with you, what there would be.
And presumably, these are the same folks we just voted to keep the non-union folks.
actually worse off,
Their days, their extra, their 3 days to keep their 3 days.
They're 4 of the 120 or so.
4 of the 120 or so.
Yes.
And it seems to me that it's coming before us, before there's an absolute indication that these people want to join. Now, I know that I happen to know some folks who were brought into the union that they didn't want to, and again, and obviously we have, you have the voting situation and everything, but, sometimes people can be coerced, and in a small group of 4, there can be a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. But I think here's the thing. The county really has no legitimate argument to oppose, under Michigan law, accretion into a unit if they want to be part of that union. And in fact, we have no say in it. And so the only reason not to agree, if we have a strong indication that all 4, want to do it, the only reason not to agree would be to extend delay in my opinion, delay the inevitable. And I don't see that as, and what's even, we may not have all these employees by the time the budget's done. So that comes into play too.
I guess that was my biggest concern, but also when we had the MSUE come in here and talk about their contract, one of the questions is whether or not MSUE could take on those employees rather than being employees of Grand Traverse County. And so I'm just concerned, and I'm sure they heard that discussion too, as to, is that going to protect them from being able to do that? Is it going to keep us from being able to negotiate that with that? How is that going to affect our budgets and our negotiation when it comes to that particular department?
Well, I think the answer to that question is it's based on the membership in the union is based on positions being there.
They just get
if the positions are eliminated and we contract with someone else to do it, then that's legal to do. The point is, it's not relevant. It's really not relevant to this discussion. It's not a legal reason that we can stop them from unionizing.
All right. Well, I just want to get to the heart of the issue. I mean, is the issue the up-and-coming possibility of paying 20% copay in healthcare?
No, the issue here is that they're already aware that at least one of their positions will be eliminated in this budget. I'm not done with the budget, but there may be 2. And so what this does for them is it gives them some limited seniority within another bargaining unit.
Somebody else in the union.
No, they won't be able to bump because they'll come into the union with 0 days of seniority.
They won't have any. They won't bring their county seniority to the union.
No, we've got an employee there with 21 years. They will be in the union with only 1 day of seniority when they come in. Wow. But what it will allow them to do is if there are jobs that open up within the Teamsters General Union and someone from the outside wants that job, if it's posted and they're a member of the union and they're qualified, even with 1 day, they could get a shot at that job. If someone else has 2 days, they're second in line. But at least they have the ability to access Teamsters General jobs. And I think they're looking for job security. I don't think it has anything to do with the insurance issue.
Jason?
From a pension standpoint, does this move them into a different position as far as that goes? Okay.
No.
Thank you.
It's closed.
Okay. Pretty good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Administrator's update?
Just going to hit on a few items quickly. First of all, Jen and Dean and I and Sally are in the middle of the review of the insurance bids that we received. Remember, the two companies, the two insurance agents that proposed were Great Northern Benefits and Cadillac Insurance. Now it's called CIC. They provided comprehensive bids on all insurances with the exception of workers' comp, and that's because we asked them not to. And that's because there's a MAC program, Michigan Association of Counties program, that we're going to work with, and we think we'll get better rates by doing that. So we are going through that process. The team interviewed both companies Monday for a couple hours each. We're still in the process of developing a recommendation to you, but potentially we'll have a recommendation to you by next week. Now, at that time, and we haven't kind of figured this out, at that time, you may decide that you want to interview these two agencies. You may decide you want to interview the one that we're recommending, or you may be willing to take our recommendations. We will have done an extensive review and provide you with kind of a comprehensive recommendation for your consideration. So I just want to let you know we've been working hard on that. I will say in general this. Rates did not go down again, okay, for a regular plan. Everybody else is seeing 20% increases.
20% increases.
The rate at maximum went up 3.98%.
Wow.
So that's still very, very, very
good.
competitive. But having said that, they offered several options that we're going to be talking to you about during budget and beyond, that different programs that don't necessarily impact the employee but could save us considerable amounts of money. Sure. So we're going through all of those right now, checking references, seeing the validity of them, but I think we're going to have some very interesting proposals to bring you, and that's no matter which agent we choose. Okay, so what we're going to bring you is we're going to bring you a recommendation about an agent based on ability, capacity, those kinds of things, and there will be separate recommendations that will come after that once we're able to work with that agent to negotiate the best prices we can on all the various insurances. That's kind of what we're looking at. Yes, sir.
Dennis, I think it would be important that before we make a decision to go with MAC on the workman's comp, to get a quote from both of those companies.
Go ahead, Jen. You want to?
Either of them even handle. They don't have the, both of those agents strictly handle like the employee benefits. I'll tell you that Cadillac was going to go to the MAC to get a quote. They don't handle, they have to go through an in-between, but neither agent can do the work comp, which is property and casualty. So I guess it wouldn't be beneficial really for us to go through either of those agencies.
So we might do that separately ourselves.
Yeah,
and bid it.
absolutely. We can bid it out ourselves and do it. I have full confidence that we could do it ourselves, even if we wanted to ask our new agent to, or our existing agent to assist us.
That's how we're doing it now, Jen, aren't we?
Yes, exactly. That's how because right now we have a different agent doing work comp. We have Great Northern Benefits for everything else, but we have a different agent for work comp because Great Northern Benefits doesn't handle work comp.
These two companies you're interviewing, is it for just health insurance?
Health, dental, vision, life, short-term disability, long-term disability.
It's not for, doesn't the county have like comp insurance and all that?
Work comp.
That's through.
No.
You mean property,
like on the
casualty?
buildings and.
That's through
MMRMA.
MMRMA, Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association. We're self-funded through them. That's all separate.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Good.
On your desks, I provided you an updated dam funding report, just so you all have it. You can look at the various funding funds that have been approved, funds that are being requested. So I'm just going to give that to you for your consideration, or for your information. Also, I put on your desk what we call dam contract proposal. and I'll talk about this at a later meeting, I'm not going to go through it now, but what it basically is we're setting up a mechanism where all of the grants, you can imagine, we're getting all these grants from all these different places. Some are coming to the county, some are coming to the city, some are coming to the Conservation District, to Great Lakes Watershed, all these different organizations. And we've developed a system whereby we'll run all that stuff through the IT, and the city has agreed to act as the fiduciary on all those grants.
Oh, okay.
So it would be a process that would allow us to funnel those down and keep consistency and keep all the recording in one place. So I will talk to you more
I
about
thought
that.
Ben Vivos did a nice job Monday night when he explained that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to invite him to come talk to you then. He did a good job. I mean, in fact, we were joking about that. He said he took it to the city commission and they approved it Monday night, so.
They didn't approve it because it was a study session.
Oh,
It was a
okay.
study session.
You know,
Yeah.
conceptually, they approved it, so
Okay.
there were no arguments.
Also, I think I put on your desk someplace the announcement that there will be the public hearing on the Sabin Dam drawdown Monday night. It'll be on the Sabin and Brown Bridge Dam. It's at 5 p.m. on the 15th, Monday night, at the Civic Center, and it will be a public hearing held by Fisheries on Brown Bridge and Sabin Dams.
Okay.
So, on budgets. Right now, we're about $1.2 million from balancing the budget. We had a meeting this morning with all our department heads. We invited all our department heads and judges and elected officials. We probably had 20 department heads there to try to brainstorm things that we haven't thought of, things that we might look at, and we got some good ideas about other things that we may be able to do next year to kind of cut this deficit down and eliminate the deficit. So we're still working on that. We're confident we'll have this budget balanced by next Wednesday. But you know, it's significant. And when I say that, you know, I know you understand. Basically, we're going back 5 years to a 2007 budget and saying we're going to have spend the same amount of money we did in 2007 that we're spending in 2012. That's going to be pretty involved. You're going to see a lot of different aspects to this. When I told you before that I hope to eliminate or to reduce this down by programs, there are going to be some program eliminations, but Dean was telling me from the very first day, Dennis, there aren't enough programs that you're going to eliminate to bring this in line. So there will also be contracting out, there will also be job eliminations. There's going to be kind of massive across-the-board impact on this. It's going to be a very difficult budget, I think, for you guys to come to agreement on, but I know you will. I want to tell you that the commissioner priorities that I passed out to you, 8 commissioners filled them out. It's some good information, and commissioners were thinking pretty much on the same lines. And so, important to look at. We looked at this as we went through the budgets and made decisions on what we're recommending on budgets. So I hope that's useful information for you. And I would use this information as you talk to each other to see what kind of commonality there is, you know, and see how everybody feels about these. You know, where we broke them off at the various ranges, that was just our idea. You know, I mean, the next thing you might do is say, well, instead of looking at everything that's less than 1.5 or 1.54, let's look at everything that's less than 2. And, you know, we'll redo that for you and give you it all in one color so you could kind of see the range of it. But thank you all for doing that. That was, I hope it was a useful exercise for you, and I hope this information is useful. It's useful for us as we prepare the budget. In regards to the budget, I don't typically, you know, talk ahead about these things, but this is kind of out, so I want you to know it because I talked to the employees tonight. I am recommending the elimination of the custodial staff. I met with the custodial staff tonight to tell them that so that they heard it firsthand. And I'm just letting you know that because I met with the employees. You may start getting calls and those kinds of things. But in very general summary, we spent a lot of time looking at this. In very general summary, first let me say, all the judges wrote letters and the sheriff saying they oppose this.
Right.
Okay? But in general summary, here's what it looks like. There's roughly $190,000 a year in savings by going to this, according to the bids we received.
Wow.
Now, the first year, there's potentially $154,000 in unemployment costs.
but the bids, we required all the bidders to agree to give preference when they hire additional employees to our employees, and they agreed to that. So we're going to encourage our employees, and I've committed to our employees, they will be here through the end of the year, if you decide to contract. But I've told them, they'll be here through the end of the year because our bids started January 1st. So they know they have that security, but we're going to do everything we can. Jen and I met with them to encourage them to other positions, to other training, to potentially apply it at the custodial contract that we're going to recommend, to get jobs so they have other places to go. But I met with them tonight, and so they understand the situation. I'm sure you'll have more discussion. I know you're not all in agreement with it, but it's roughly, worst case scenario, $23,000 in savings the first year and about $190,000 each of the next 2 years after that. So it's substantial, and that's part of our recommendation.
How many employees does that impact?
11.
11?
10 custodial employees and a supervisor. We're gonna ask you to keep the supervisor on for a couple of months as we start the contract, so we have somebody kind of making sure they're doing what the contract says in the evenings, but that's like a 2-month commitment, and then that position goes away as well. So 11 positions go away.
Unless the contractor hires that supervisor.
Yeah.
The unemployment cost is assuming that those employees do not find work right away.
Right.
So it would behoove us if we could help place, if possible, and without.
That's what I was just saying.
That's why we
Jen is going to work with them
Okay.
to try to help them find jobs. We're going to get them with Michigan Works to try to get
Okay,
additional
sorry.
training, anything we can do to help them. Yeah. We talked about the last thing that I just want to update you on is that we have, we have this jail temporary housing unit over here that we've had for 20 years.
Yeah.
And we put our community inmates in it, people that are working out in the community. Well, we've run into some major problems with infrastructure, plumbing, leaks, and problems on the floor. We've had to rip up the floor. Now, the sheriff, because of our jail population, has been able to move all those inmates over to the jail, and they are accommodating us. But I wanted you to know that we've kind of taken it as an emergency. We've got our people moved off other jobs. They're cleaning up the floor, pulling out the floor, so we can redo the plumbing. We have to redo the shower system, and then get it back in place. And so we're handling that through the budget. But if you go by there and you see it's empty, they haven't all escaped. That we're fixing the place up. We hope in 3-4 weeks we'll have that all fixed up, and then we'll be able to utilize that again, because it's a much cheaper.
Oh, big time.
It's much cheaper for us to put them in there than it is to have them in the jail. So that's really all I had.
Okay. Sonny?
Mr. Chairman, I hate to mention this, but I think we should have backed up a long time ago. There was an item pulled from the consent.
He went under
And Carl's been sitting here all night, and I believe the first thing that's supposed to happen.
I
didn't realize he was there for this. The first thing
I
that
apologize,
The first
Carl.
thing that should have happened after department action items should have been the item that was pulled for the consent.
Well, actually, we should have done it before we even started the action items. I should have made it number 8AA or something.
Not starting over.
No, I don't think we want to go there either. Okay.
Well, I just apologize to Carl because I should have caught that earlier.
I didn't even connect, that's why you were still here, okay. And that brings us to receive and file A3.
Yeah, the reason why I had this pulled is because there was a lot of discussion about the seal coating program at Garfield Township last night. There were some people that were really quite adamantly upset with the way that the communication has been coming out of the Road Commission for subdivisions that are getting seal coated. They have since taken care of that problem, because today, in my mailbox, I got a letter saying they're going to do seal coating. So I want the people in the community to know that the Road Commission recognized that there was a problem and are rectifying that problem to make sure that people are being notified
whenever your subdivision or whatever your roads are going to be seal coated, that you should be getting a letter in your mailbox telling you're going to do that, right, Carl?
Correct. That was discussed at our last meeting also, that letter, and I don't have it here with me.
Right.
But all the residents, when they're going to be impacted, do get a letter. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from the projects we've done. We've had a lot of township participation. Out of their funds, they're covering the material cost, we're covering the labor cost, and we're gaining a lot of life out of these roads, and it's been very positive from the township.
I thought the letter did a nice job, but I also want to compliment Garfield, Green Lake, Paradise, and Grant Township for coming to the table to do that. But there was one major complaint in the subdivision across from Garfield Township, because apparently the machinery broke down and caused a huge problem. And even one of the people that lived there fell on their bike and broke their hip and a couple of ribs because of the loose gravel. So, I just wanted to bring that up. I'm sorry to have kept you here this late, but I feel that people should be notified that, yes, there was a problem, the machinery's been corrected, and now they're being notified also, and I appreciate what the Road Commission has been able to do to take care of that.
We appreciate that too, and like I said, without this township participation, our funds are like you guys too. I mean, we're all trying to get our budget balanced also, and of course with us, winter's the priority, that our monies go there first, and then what we have left takes care of that. But the townships, like you pointed out, I think Peninsula is one of them also. Peninsula, Garfield, Green Lake, Paradise.
It didn't specify that on this particular report.
No, it didn't on here, but I think Peninsula was in on some of this also.
Okay.
And then last year, Mayfield Township also did some graveling in that. So we've had quite a few townships step up to the plate with some money in that, and they're concerned about the roads too.
Sure.
Carl, what piece of North Long Lake Road? What piece of North Long Lake Road? Is that there by the high school?
I'm not quite exactly sure because we're jumping around so much that a lot of these...
There was some discussion, Barnes Road to Zimmerman and...
Zimmerman Road got part of it done already, and it was only half the road was done.
Well, it says there's a project on North Long Lake Road that all the right-of-ways have been obtained, and I was trying to figure out which part of Long Lake Road. Not that I drive it or anything.
Yeah, I don't know what that project is either.
I don't either.
I can ask.
Number 6.
Exactly what that is either.
I can call Mary and ask her.
Books for a while, but they were looking for a little right-of-way there, I know that, so.
Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks for sticking around, we owe you one.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you, Carl.
Could you just introduce yourself for the record?
Carl Brown, County Road Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carl. Have a good evening.
And again, I apologize for...
Wow. Mark that on your calendar, Carl.
Okay, which brings us to unfinished business, I believe.
Ross is going to volunteer to go out and sit at a road commission meeting.
He only said he had out there, now he's leaving.
You got one thing left and that's it?
Yeah.
But I'm going to wait. I've been here for this long, I can't wait.
There's no unfinished business, any new business? Which brings us to second public comment. Okay. Commissioner committee reports?
Just a quick one. The East Bay Township, as you know, has been trying to figure out what to do with their compactor land, whether to buy the property from the state or not. They still have not made that decision, considering potential liabilities and groundwater contamination, what have you. And they also have another problem. One of their trailers is in severe, unrepairable state, and either they have to replace it or it could explode. I don't know, I guess, but essentially, so they're looking at a lot of expense if they want to continue the compactor operations. If I had to read the township board, I'd say that they're going to close that operation.
Wow.
Given American Waste, their transfer station.
Well, interesting.
and the new board.
Chris?
I just wanted to let everybody know that this month of August, the Parks and Rec Commission will be meeting next Tuesday instead of its regularly scheduled time of Thursday. The director is going to be out of town, and the board was able to accommodate his schedule, and so it will be Tuesday of next week.
Tuesday, the 16th.
Yes.
Which is at 6 o'clock
Yes.
in this room.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sonny?
Chris, I had the chance to go to the public hearing for the plan for the Civic Center, and I thought it was rather interesting the way it was presented, but the people that were more concerned, they've loaded it, that they wanted pickleball courts and they wanted to keep the swimming pool. There was more people in the audience for those two particular items than anything else was said about that particular plan. So, and also I thought it was rather interesting because part of the plan specifically stated that if the school became available, that the recommendation would be is that we purchase that property to add to the Civic Center. So it's kind of, if you haven't seen that plan for the...
You heard that right.
Yeah.
They have the authority to do it, too.
Yeah, so I just think that we need to be more aware of what was presented to that Civic Center plan.
They get five, but they ain't gonna have any money.
So I was the only commissioner
They may have
that
the
showed up
authority.
with that.
They don't have any money. Yeah.
Contract, but they better go find a bank loan.
Yeah.
That plan also, if I could, Commissioner, that plan also recommends moving the facilities department off of that
Yes, it
site.
does.
And doesn't recommend where it'll go, so.
Right. But it also looks at, lowering some of the fence, but one of the questions I asked was, have you put a dollar amount to this? And no, they haven't done that because they were looking at getting the plan adopted first, and then they were going to try and put some dollars amounts to it. And of course, with budgets the way they are, I went, yeah, it's snicker, snicker, chuckle, chuckle. But anyway, so I just wanted everybody to be aware of that particular plan. If you haven't got it, Dennis, if you could get, or Chris, get a copy of it to each of the commissioners, it would be much appreciated so we can at least see what's there.
I will get that done.
Okay?
I'll be going back and doing another stress test tomorrow morning.
Yeah, okay.
Sonny's been trying to get a word in here.
So, and then as far as the meetings, I will not be here. I'm sorry, Sonny. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Herb, finish
No.
up.
You finish yours and then I'll do mine.
Okay, I will not be here the 14th of September. Hopefully, our budget meetings will be done the first two meetings.
All right.
And then also, we'll see. Also,
Joke of the day, or?
well, no, I hope not.
We all laugh.
Look for a major announcement
No.
tomorrow night. It'll probably be in the news on Friday morning from the Conservation District.
New hire.
Nope,
No.
nope.
Found gold.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Okay, I was just going to mention, as you may remember, last month you received a recommendation for the restructuring of the Resource Recovery Council, going to 5 members, quarterly meetings. The Resource Recovery Council as a group did not support that restructuring. They,
Of course.
their recommendation came out that there would be 7 members. You would have the same 5 members that we had before, 1 county representative, an environmental and industry. A city representative, 1 township representative, and 2 citizens at large. They want 7 members, and they want a minimum of 6 meetings. So, that's the recommendation that will be coming to you from them. Bob presented his budget. The budget includes the same $4.45 surcharge that's currently in place, and it involves using a very small piece of their $326,000 of fund balance.
Larry?
I'd like to remind the commissioners that tomorrow at 9 a.m. the 4-H auction starts. And as a result of the conversation at our meeting last week, Commissioner Max Bauer is going to meet me at noon out there.
Yes, I am.
So I can show her the ropes.
Yep.
And
Never done it
I think
before.
that's really commendable of Chris.
Good for
So,
you.
boys, I'm looking for some more out there.
And if you don't want to come, just send your checkbook, we'll take care of it.
That's right.
Any other commissioner committee reports? Under notices and announcements, remind everybody a week from Friday, the Wellness Barbecue at the Civic Center from 11 to 1:30. And county commissioners, if you haven't signed up for a shift, I think there's still some holes. August 24th, from 1 to 3 is our joint meeting with the Grand Traverse Band Tribal Council at the Shawbutown government offices. And budget hearings are September 7th at 3, September 8th at 6, and if needed, as I'm sure there will be, September 14th at 3 p.m. and September 21st at 3 p.m. Anything, any other?
The MAC conference?
The MAC conference, which is the Michigan Association of Counties, is having their statewide conference at the Grand Traverse Resort from September 18th through the 20th. Any other notices or announcements?
Is everybody signed up for the MAC conference?
Yeah, this is, if you haven't been to one, this is a good opportunity because you don't have to, you don't have to have the hotel room. We've got enough in our budget based on what we looked at to cover it.
All you gotta do is call Katie and she'll
Just pay the registration fee and you can just drive over there.
Yep.
Okay, there's no need for a closed session, correct?
Correct.
Looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Stick around. Goodbye.
Well, we're gonna put a muzzle on you.
Save it.